This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the Sturbridge Conservation Commission. The date is January 4th, 2024. It is 6 p.m. We are in Veterans Hall on the second floor. Let me put my glasses on. Sturbridge Conservation Commission will be holding this meeting in person with the option for visual attendance, virtual attendance. In-person attendance will be at the meeting location which we just listed, which is 308 Main, second floor. We have, for attendance, Ed Goodwin.
Ted Winglass.
Ted Winglass and
Eric Gaspar and Karsten.
great, thank you. We're missing Roy Bishop tonight. That will be the one that we'll be without. All right, so Becky, you said you wanted to go into...
Yeah, do you want to do the reading for the public hearing thing so we don't forget about it? I think it's right below that.
That's a good idea. Get you to work right away.
Okay.
Teach you to be a couple minutes late, huh?
Punishment. In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body or resource area and or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body or resource area in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge wetland bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to the opening, the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Becky, you want to?
Yeah, we can probably just read the first one and say that it's postponed.
Oh, okay.
Can I do that?
Yep, makes sense. 605, 88 South Shore Drive, request to amend an order of conditions, amend permit to include geothermal wells and drinking water well. DP file number 300-1127, and they're looking for a continuation.
Well, actually, it's a postponement. We can't open the public hearing because they didn't post the legal ad.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to postpone this to the January 25th, 2024 meeting.
All right. So from there?
Yep, so we're going to go to number 16 on the list. This is the Mass Department of Transportation I-90 Cedar Lake Enforcement Order. DOT said they were going to be jumping on go-to meeting, and I did tell them to come at the beginning of the meeting, but they're not on here yet. We can get started if we like.
Yeah.
I think anyway. So if you guys want to come up and yeah, but just for the record, this is an enforcement order that we've been working on since 2018. Before some of the commissioners were on the board here, Cedar Lake Association came to the town and informed us that there was failed drainage structures at the north end of the lake. We went out there and we started to find a lot of failed drainage structures. So we've been working with them, with Mass DOT, over the past 5.5 years to get those fixed. We were looking to close out this enforcement order in July. We had gone out there and done like a final walkthrough. DOT had provided us a letter of substantial compliance from the project engineer, and we had, one of the things we had asked for was a long-term O&M plan for the maintenance that's required for DOT to do for those structures, and a commitment from them for the next couple of years to go out there periodically to check out those structures to make sure no impacts happened and that everything was, it was being inspected out there. So when we were about to get ready to close this out, Raul had found, there was a failed drainage structure out there. Oh, we lost our video here. And they had made some temporary repairs, and it took a little while for them to get the final structures they needed to make those repairs, but they did make those recently, which survived that large storm we had in the middle of December. So I think we're in a position to work to close out the enforcement order here.
Okay,
Anything you want to add?
all right.
Yep, no, I think you summarized it. You cut through a lot of all those details early on, but I think, you know, as the project lead right along, and Jeff is one of the trustees from the Lake Association, I've notified them that I was comfortable to give clearance on the enforcement order, and, you know, we're prepared to call it over at this point, as they have repaired all of the items over that 5-year period that were identified, and then some others that they created during the process. So we're comfortable with that. The only key thing that I wanted to get confirmation from MassDOT on was their ongoing maintenance plan, because, I mean, part of the reasons that all of these problems came about is there really was no active maintenance in this area at all. I mean, to the point that trees were growing through the fences that they would have had to access the land on, and they couldn't have been in there. So when they were talking, Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, they committed to at least a 3-year review plan annually, and
Let's see.
I believe that we were talking about a April, May kind of timeline to have them come out and do a full walkthrough with you and the association. I just want to see that maintenance at least. I think it should happen every year, but I don't. If I get 3-year commitment, I'll take that right now. So that's kind of where we're at this point. So I know they were going to join. But
Sorry, we're just having go-to issues here where they can't see us or hear us, so. Well, we did get, so they did commit to that maintenance inspections. I think it was 2 years. I think when I was going back through my stuff
That's what you stated in your summary, that's what you said.
Yeah.
today. I mean, the O&M plan is a long-term plan for those drainage structures for DOT to be implementing ongoing forever, perpetually. But I think it was, either it was 2 or 3 years. I thought I printed her email today that had that on there, but. And I think that we can, when we issue the release
Oh my gosh.
order, that's through a letter that we can include with that
Not working.
commitment.
I mean, if they hold up to the
Okay, so it's not just me.
next year and then the subsequent year, I think you have an opportunity. And they would schedule that with.
No, I don't know if they can hear me, Brandon, but
Schedule
it's
the
not
next year
working.
and force that.
Yeah, I keep on getting the rainbow.
You know,
guys-
getting a consistent review of it would be good.
Okay,
'cause
so
there's
just as long as it's not
There's
just
still a
me.
lot of opportunity for failure in the overall area. There really is, so.
But, yeah, this
I
isn't
think
gonna
what
work.
they did is good, but there's still some areas they never touched or had to touch that could go.
I emailed Rebecca.
Can you guys hear us
Whether
at
she
all?
checks, because she often checks her email, even during the meeting, so she may or may not get this.
They're having
No,
their own
I don't think they can
conversation.
hear us.
Yeah,
All right, I'm just gonna,
that could be dangerous.
Yeah, it could be. Every
hear
mic
me?
is hot and every gun is loaded.
all right.
Brandon, can you hear me? Don't think so.
My only question, I didn't see the 2 years, but they committed to the inspection. What is the O&M plan for, call for from a maintenance standpoint? Is it at least an annual, maintenance schedule?
Well, it's different for the different activities, so we've got a,
If anyone else can,
We can hear you.
and try and see if they can make it work, the meeting for us remote folks.
So that one more time, Eric?
Rebecca's gonna log out of GoToMeeting and then log back in so
Okay.
that if it possibly will work for for us that's remote.
Go ahead, Aaron, we'll
Okay.
give you a minute.
I just wanted her to say that, so. All right. Wasn't good. Wasn't good this time. Oh, come on.
Good.
Erin, can you hear us?
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
No luck.
Let me just talk to Stephen here.
It's our obligation. I mean, we're not required to do this, it's just we can do this, right?
Oh, we can move forward, yeah. Well, I'd like to try and do it in total if we can. Yeah.
Really have anything to add. I do think to your point that, you know, we wouldn't have been in the situation we were in if the maintenance had been ongoing.
So Raul, the new water source that you have for Cedar Lake it's beautiful.
Yeah, is it
It's
clean?
It's clear, and the beaver, dammed it up about 9 times.
What was the end result? Was it beavers?
There isn't an end result right
Huh?
now. It's a blockage, a major blockage under the exit ramp. And
Yeah.
it goes all the way, into town, and it's blocked,
It's blocked.
so.
I mean, they haven't gotten the telephone pole ram.
No,
Fixed
not
yet?
that I know of.
Do they work on it?
What?
Do they work on it?
They bypassed it.
I can't, yes, they're working on it. I saw a truck there when I drove by. But the water is crystal clear and cold.
Well, it was funny when we first saw it, because I didn't know where the hell it was coming from, because
Yeah.
I never saw water
Imagine
there
if
at all.
we had put another 71 houses behind
What's that?
his house.
Yeah.
Put another 71 houses in there, we'd really have some flooding.
Yeah.
Wow. Brian, how you doing? Brandon, I'm sorry. Keep saying Brian.
Like everybody's logging back in.
Becky's working on it.
We still got the rainbow. Probably required to record all these, I'm guessing, anyway. aren't they? They're probably required to record, right? Yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they do.
So they can just decide.
But you gotta reset it.
What?
They can just decide, we just meant.
They're arguing over the size of the excavated, there's a 160-foot arm and a 60-foot arm, and they can't get the larger one.
I mean, this one, they just decide to maintain it for 2 years, rather than forever.
What's that?
They're kind of hit and miss.
Well, it's the mass bike, so they're gonna,
They can do whatever they want.
yeah, they can do what they want, yeah.
They said they were gonna be here.
Well, then flooding will be happening again.
I think we had-
Oh, yeah, there's no
during
question.
the process, there were times, well, went through COVID, right, so.
Took 4 years to repair that.
Which caused its own.
They worked on it,
ways,
continually,
but,
and they
there were times where, maxed out, had to.
you have to see it, but it's all, have you been out there?
Really,
No,
all that kind of stuff.
They burned it and they put in
An update here where it's
stone
just-
culverts to have it, settle out. They did a nice job.
Many meetings, yeah.
We lost the rainbow for a second.
Zooms are okay, but I still like face to
Yeah.
face.
No, I hear
So
you.
much different.
Totally.
This we're older.
I don't know. I mean, we adapted. So
Shouldn't be so difficult,
So that's simple, that's something that they're following.
They're doing it. different things. The solar field, Cedar Lake, and
Of course, Jim, it would be on a night that you have another obligation, right? The technical difficulties would happen on a night that you have another obligation.
no, I hope not.
I mean, this is an enforcement order that sounds like we could wrap this with or without success.
Yeah, we don't need,
He doesn't know what's going on, and I don't know why it was fine, it was working,
Yeah, so now,
but now it's not, and they still can't hear us, right?
so we're gonna move forward with it.
Now that, see, it keeps,
Wow. Oops. Found it's.
Erin, can you hear us now? Anyone hear us?
We are not muted.
Oh, all right.
Oh, now it's off,
Maybe it's this connection.
as soon as I said that.
Right, let's take that out.
What'd you do?
Now it's all off.
Can you guys hear us?
No, we are not. It's all gone.
Sitting here, wait.
I'm not even on.
Switch to your new speaker.
Can you guys hear us?
I can hear you.
All right. All right, well, maybe we're back up in,
You can hear the reverb.
unplug it, plug back in, I don't know.
there you go. Caller one or two probably needs to mute themselves, but, all right.
Okay.
All right, moving along here.
So just curious, we don't know who caller one is on here. Is that someone from Mass DOT by any chance?
Guess not.
All right. We were talking about the O&M plan.
I was just curious how frequent somebody's gonna have eyes on that. I mean, I'm sure you guys will keep an eye on it anyway on behalf of the town, but I'm just curious by the O&M plan, how frequently DOT has committed to putting their own eyes on it as well. Because it shouldn't fall on their burden to
Oh,
constantly
no.
check and recheck.
No, and part of it, Eric, is they actually put in an added service road down the side of the big swale purposely so they could access it for maintenance going forward. So, I
Right.
mean, okay. So when's somebody gonna go down there with a truck and check it? You know,
Right, that's my only question, is that if
Yeah.
it's gonna happen annually, I mean, I would think that that's
Right.
sufficient to make sure that it keeps in reasonable order.
So this says there's a table in here. Some of these things, stilling wells, maintenance, checking or potential maintenance actions once a year. Catch basins, every 2 years, that's up along the roadway. And then there's surface SCMs, inlet and outlets to SCMs, and it says above that, maintenance actions will not occur at any set frequency unless noted otherwise below, but rather will be based on a condition and impact to functionality. Maintenance to be performed on the stormwater system, and then it includes that table.
So it sounds to me they're committing to at least having somebody get eyes on this annually, based on what's outlined in there.
What we specifically asked them
Yeah.
for, and they at least verbally agreed, and I think in writing, was that they would do a walkthrough of the site, which include all of the drainage areas on both sides of the lake and both sides of Old Hamilton, or Hamilton Road, you know, so that they were checking all of the areas that had failed before, because for those of you that don't know the history, they would fix things, and the things they fixed would break again, and then they'd fix it again, it would break a third time. So it got a little tenuous over the years to make sure that they truly fixed it in a way that was gonna hold up, you know, for the long term. So that's why I would like to see at least some follow-through as the overall project components for at least a couple of years. If they only look at the retention ponds every 2 years thereafter, okay, but, you know, at least look at the overall picture, at least for a couple of years. And springtime would be the best after whatever runoff we have from the winter, you know, so.
Well, we can add in the letter if you like, we can say we would like them to at least,
Yeah,
for the first
we
couple of
can't
years,
Tell Mass DOT what to do,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
at least twice a year, look at
They have
it maybe.
they have an investment in it as well, so.
And provide us notification that they did any repairs they made. And then we can put a follow-up with them.
But Becky, will it be, can you count on at least a scheduled visit so that you know you're there
Yeah.
and someone from the association is there as well? Because we've all put a lot of time and effort into it. I just don't want them to go out and say, oh, we checked it all looks fine. I apologize for my lack of trust in the final result, but, we've been down that path numerous times, and I've
it's
said that to
reasonable.
them, and they agreed,
Yeah, I
so,
think that's reasonable.
I think it's reasonable to ask for that.
okay,
And we can put that in that letter to them if you like.
okay.
I think they're gonna be spending a lot of time in Sturbridge.
Yeah, they will.
We had another drainage issue with them on Route 20 with the Quinnebog River, and they actually filed to get that project done too. So that was another ongoing one that'll wrap up soon.
I'm sure if you followed anything along Route 20 or the Mass Pike, any which way direction, you're gonna see the same kind of drainage erosion on multiple sides. So there are other lakes. I don't know if anybody's looked at Big Alum. I'm not, but it's just old drainage, and it's gonna break down. So they'll be spending a lot of time here.
So do we wait until you draft the language to release the enforcement order, or do we make a motion to release the enforcement order with the notes that we've given to put into the letter that we issued to DOT?
I think we should release the enforcement order. That's what we have on the agenda to do tonight.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to release the enforcement order on Mass DOT for Cedar Lake and request that in the letter sent, the agent makes the notes that we've talked about here today.
Scheduled site visit with
Yeah.
Cedar Lake Association, town staff, and DOT twice a year?
Annual.
Annually?
Annually.
Annually? Okay.
I'll second the
At least
motion.
annually.
Discussion? I'd just like to thank you again for your hard work, and Becky, thank you too. Becky
Yeah.
was right in there.
She was a rookie when I started. I was a 5-year veteran.
He's still a rookie.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
I think we need a vote,
Thank
right?
you, guys.
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Edwin Glass in favor?
Carsten Stieber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys. Take care. See ya.
So we're now at 505 Main Street.
Yes.
Thank you, Raul. Good to see you, Jen.
Continued notice of intent, commercial property development, DEP file number 300, no number yet. Okay.
Correct.
Is Ron here?
Ron is on go-to. So just for the record, this was continued from the last meeting. The commission did have some questions about the project design, asked for an overlay plan, and we needed a waiver request. So that has been submitted. I'll let him go over that. And yes, as Ed said, we still have not received that DEP file number yet. So we'd be continuing this. But I thought it'd be useful to have him present that new information for you, go over that, and provide any comments on the project so far for them moving forward. Ron, would you like me to put up that overlay plan that you submitted?
Yes, please, if you may.
Yep, just give me 1 second. Chair.
Come on in, you can listen in. Just reading up.
Yep, I'm just gonna go back here. All right, can you see that, Ron?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. You can go ahead with
Great,
your.
thank you. Okay, if I just may recap the project. The applicant would like to remodel or renovate the existing building on the property and also redo the existing parking. There are 2 parking spots currently, an upper and a lower, that are kind of separated with a walkway. As part of the project, though, the applicant would like to turn this building into multi-family residential for about 8 units, and it required about 16 parking space. As part of the project, some stormwater management features are also proposed, and that being specifically a bioretention area that with being proposed, as was noted previously, we are within the 25-foot buffer area for the bioretention area. We are also within the 50-foot buffer and within the 100-foot buffer. In this particular case, an overlay plan was requested to show the existing versus the proposed. So in this particular case, the red means the existing conditions are proposed, and again, it just shows the existing parking areas, the existing walkway in relationship to the proposed development. And also in the last meeting, values or amounts of how much impervious area within the buffer zones requested. In this case, it is shown on the lower left-hand side of the sheet. But either way, if I may recap, within the 25-foot buffer zone, there's about 310 feet of 310 square feet of existing impervious. We'd like to reduce that to 0. Within the 50-foot buffer zone, we have about 2,000 square feet. We'd like to reduce that to about 300. And within the 100-foot buffer zone, there's about 2,800 square feet. But in this case, it would be increasing to about 4,100 square feet. Either way, though, if I may pose any questions, take care of any questions, please let me know.
Eric?
So I'd asked during the last meeting to see if there was any alternative to having the dumpster pad where it is and removing those 2 spaces that are inside of the 50-foot that are down towards the bottom of the plan. Was there any investigation that you made along those lines? Was there an alternative that could be provided? It just seems to me that there's space there to make that work and pull those 2 parking spots out of the 50, but that's just with my eyes, and I may be wrong.
Understood. I did look into that to see if I could place them over there. In this particular case, because of the sizes of the parking spaces and the driveway width that I need to sort of get to that other parking spaces, I can't make it work. There's also grading that I have beyond the parking that I have to take into account. And so I guess that really limits it in this case. I don't have any plan or sketch showing that, but I did look into it.
Okay.
Ted?
I think the, good gains that we get in the 25 and maybe to some degree in the 50, but you're almost doubling the size of the building to make it from 7 units to 8, which would solve the problem altogether. I'm not the financing guy behind a project like that, and I'm generally in favor of business, and I am in favor of business in the town, but that to me just seems like a lot of additional cost to get 8 units out of it, instead of 7, and then your problem would go away because you only need 15 spaces.
Yeah.
A few bucks in paving. So that's
an alternative.
Well, it's not my project, but that would eliminate the issue. And you could probably do that 3,000 square feet. You know, not even have to build as much. Not my project.
Carson, what do you think?
I mean, sounds like a good idea. Any,
Not my project.
It seems like they designed it the way it is, and they can design it back on. Go from 8 to 7, and give us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is a determination based on the space. What's the space requirement between parking spaces backing in and out?
I don't know.
25 feet, I think you said.
Yeah, well, this has a.
That's a road width. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, this has a smaller requirement.
Yeah, that's what,
Some of them are compact parking spots. And they can't, I did talk to the town planner today, she said they can't add any more compact, because I think they're maxed out with the amount that are compact versus regular parking spots already.
Someone is holding them to a space requirement between these parking spaces.
To back out. Ron, do you know what that is? I think he mentioned it at the last meeting.
Last time.
It would be 24 feet, according to the regulations and
That's crazy.
the zoning, if I may
We're
cite
gonna
it, I
go
guess.
from that board and, you know, cut that, pull that back to 20 feet, and you could do 2 side spots.
Yeah.
Keep their 8 units.
are they allowed to?
Yeah, well, we don't have to make a decision here, but if we're
Those
in
are just
agreement,
ideas.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we
tell them
can't
to go
anyway,
back
there's
and take
no
another look at it.
file.
So would you like them
But the
to
ZBA is, right?
explore what you talked about as options, like looking at, do they have to have that amount, the 24 feet for the backup? Is that an option
They
to
get a
reduce
waiver
that?
from that regulation, that would give him some flexibility in his design, maybe do 2 parallel spots, he's got his 8 units and can put his 4,000 feet there.
And
have
be less
smaller
in violation of what we
Yeah,
want.
it'd be less impact,
Yeah.
it'd be win-win.
Is everybody in agreement with that? I mean, we're just, right now, talking because we don't have a DEP file
Right.
number, so
Those are
we
just,
can do that. Eric, you in agreement?
Anything can be done to pull those 2 parking spots out of the 50-foot would
Exactly.
satisfy
Yeah.
me, all right? I just hate setting a precedent like that on something that seems like we could figure out something else. Right?
Well,
I don't think.
but
we're
we asked him to
completely
figure
lost
something out, and he didn't.
it. Right, well, I'm not,
maybe that wasn't a thought he had.
Yeah.
Or 2
Yeah.
thoughts,
Yeah.
suggestions.
All right?
Did you hear anything?
So we can't vote on it anyways.
Can't vote no. Anybody in the
Those are
audience?
good improvements that he's made, just, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I think they could do a little bit better. I'd help with the waiver, I'd support it.
Yeah.
ZBA meeting, or we could write a letter as a board to support it if that was something we chose to do.
Well, no, we can just verbally tell him that, what we're looking for, and, you know, we'll see what he comes back with the next time. 'Cause he
Yeah,
is
but if he's
coming
gonna go
back.
to another board and we say, hey, we're in support of this for these reasons, that might help him get that waiver on that,
Yeah,
maybe. you
yeah,
know.
it would, but we don't have that time, because he's going to go planning in, what, a week and a half?
I can't-
Actually, next
Ron was just talking on there.
Go ahead.
What was that, Ron?
On?
The planning board meeting is next Tuesday.
I was wrong. Next Tuesday.
And they could give you the waiver for the parking? Or-
Planning board probably can't, right? You probably have to go to the zoning board.
No, I think planning board.
I think it
can.
might be planning.
It's planning.
Really?
Planning that's approving the design.
Ron, do you know offhand, could
Yeah, but
planning
If the
approve
regulation is 24 feet, I don't
a
think.
waiver to the backup requirement, or would that have to go to ZBA as well, which you currently don't have to go to?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
At this point, we're with planning, and, again, all I know is the next meeting is with them on Tuesday.
Okay.
But I don't know, and at this
Okay.
point, this requires a ZBA process.
Right, I do think that would be a planning requirement, like thinking back on some other projects that we've had recently.
Yeah.
I think it would be through planning, like the waivers they gave for some other projects. So I can follow up on that too, Ron, and we can work on that and see if that's something that is potentially an option before you come back to the next meeting.
All right,
I'm not saying.
thank you.
Go on.
All right, so Ron, would you like a continuation to the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the next meeting is January 25th.
I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing until January 25th.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stüber in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. Thank you, Roland.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep. All right. We are now on to Haynes, 200 Haynes Street. Continued SWB notice of intent, construction of a commercial solar facility with associated appurtenances. All right, and we have...
Okay, so we have, we have Adrian Lennon on here representing the project. We also have Brandon from Ecosystem Solutions. He's our wetland peer reviewer on here. So just a quick recap, this has been continued. We have 2 peer reviews going on here. We have a wetland peer review for conservation, right. And then we have a joint planning and conservation peer review for stormwater, and they're also doing a little additional peer review for the solar facility for planning. We've had the initial report from CMG, who's our peer reviewer for the stormwater, come in. Revised plan was submitted. New comments came out from our peer reviewer on that yesterday to go back to the applicant. So we will be talking about that at the next meeting, because they'll have to look at some revisions for that. But we did ask Brandon to come on to go over his peer review report. Just so you remember, we did have that for the last meeting, but there was a question about off-site resource areas that he needed to go back out and look at. So we were waiting on that. So tonight we have him on here for you guys to go over if you have any questions for him or any comments on that. And then we would expect next we would get a report from BSE summarizing their comments in return from the peer review comments for the next meeting.
So Brandon, you're on.
Yes, sir. Okay. So I have a report that I sent on November 26th that is 8 pages long. I want to make sure that you got it, and if you have it in front of you.
Brandon, do you want me to put up anything, or do you want to share a screen?
Maybe the report itself as I rifle through it.
Okay, I'll pull that up.
Well, maybe I can. Would it be better if I did it so I could control
Sure.
it?
Yep.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay. Has the applicant given a presentation on this at a previous hearing?
Yes, they have.
Okay, good. So I'll just go over my findings. So I guess I could start, well, there's the description of the property, but I presume that you're all familiar with what the site is like. Am I right?
Yes. Brandon,
Okay,
did you get
good.
my invite to be presenter?
Oh yeah. So what do? Select tab to share. Okay.
Would you
am I
do that
sharing?
from there?
Oh, I have to do the sharing first. I have to bring it up
Yes,
first.
yep.
Give me a second. Gotta bring up the report. So, I'll do that first, okay. So, it's giving me a window, okay. I'm not used to go-to meetings, so
No problem.
apologize if I'm a little slow on the uptake. All right, so here's the reports dated November 26th. Basically, I state the documents that I've gone through, which is slightly updated now because I went back to the site with some updated plans that show the wetland boundary on the south side, and that one is dated December 11, 2023. So I'd like to add that as an amendment to the report and to my testimony. Okay. So I'll start there. Here's the site description, but you're all familiar. There's a mature forest here. It's a healthy forest, in my opinion. It's good to high quality forest. a lot of different species in different layers in the herbaceous layer, shrub layer, tree layer. There's also a good amount of mountain laurel, which is not a rare forest community type, but it's not something that's all that common either, so I just want to point that out. There's a lot of chestnut oak on site. It's another thing that it's not rare, but you don't see it all the time. The wetland, there's wetlands on the north side and wetlands on the south side, and only a very few flags are actually on site, and that's flags 26 through 30. Of all the flags they put in, are only those really 3 or 4 that are on site. And on the north west side, the wetland originates from this double culvert, which receives and discharges, I presume, stormwater from Haines Street. But they flagged it all the way up to the head wall. In fact, you can see, I'll zoom it in, there's a blue flag right here. That's flag 33. Okay. On the south side, there is also a wetland, which I confirmed recently. The wetland boundary on the south side, it's off-site again, but the wetland boundary is very well defined. My only comment on that is that they probably could have carried it a little further to the east, given that there's a 500-foot wetland buffer zone associated with it. And the wetland does start to tail away as you go south and east. But given the fact there's a 500-foot buffer zone, it would have been good if they could have extended it to where the property line is. So that's my comment on the wetland on the south side. I don't think it's going to change like the way the buffer zone is trailing right now on the south side, but it would be good to see what the whole picture is, because right now they only have the buffer zone shown through about approximately half the property, and the eastern half of the property doesn't have a buffer zone line. Okay. Any questions on that so far?
Did the slopes require the 500 foot?
Yes, in my opinion, they do. You definitely have 8% or greater slopes on this site, and I'll get into my concerns about that a little later on.
Thank you.
Okay? Yep. All right, so one of the things you have to do is look at the wetlands, look at the wetland types, which is bordering vegetated wetland on the north side. On the south side, you have bordering vegetated wetland and a bank associated with an intermittent stream, which runs right through the middle of it. Okay. And I believe that according to Chapter 365 of the bylaw and 310 CMR 10, that you have the following presumptions of significance in regards to the public interests. You have protection of public and private water supply, protection of groundwater supply, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, protection of fisheries, and protection of wildlife habitat. Those are the ones that I think that are applicable in this case. And under the Sturbridge Wetlands Protection Bylaw, I believe that the applicable interests are erosion and sediment control, very important one in this case, protection of water quality, and believe it or not, protection of agriculture, having to do with harvesting of trees. I'll get into that. In my wetland delineation review, I walked the wetland boundary on the north side on November 24th. It's a BVW. I believe that the wetland boundary is accurate. For the most part, the wetland occurred at the bottom of the slope. Follows that slight valley along Haines Street to that head wall. And again, the only flags on site are flags WF 26 through 29. And I didn't find any others on site, but there is that wetland to the south. Okay. The wetland jurisdiction, clear from the naked eye that you're looking, that a significant of the property consists of slopes of greater than 8%, and that includes the slope on the south side of the lot. What I write is, and this is something maybe the commission can clarify for me, whether the 500-foot buffer zone begins at the BVW boundary or where the 8% slope adjacent to the BVW ends. I don't know how you interpret that. But either way, there's 8% slopes. Okay. I agree with the applicant that there's no 100-year floodplain, no areas of critical environmental concern, outstanding resource waters, Zone 1, Zone 2, interim wellhead protection areas, surface water protection areas, estimated or priority habitats of rare endangered species, or any potential or certified vernal pools on site. And it also does not fall with any natural heritage endangered species biomap areas. That said, there are a couple of Zone 1s associated with wellheads, specifically Rockwell 4 and Rockwell 5 within the Sturbridge Retirement Co-op. The outer edge of the Zone 1, though, is approximately 750 to 800 feet away from the eastern property boundary, whatever that's worth, but I thought that you might want to know about that. It also goes towards my opinion that these wetlands are significant to the protection of public water supply and groundwater supply. Okay. There's also Breakneck Brook, which is a DCR, designated cold water fishery, but that is 1,900 feet to the east, for whatever that's worth to you as the commission. I just thought you'd like to know about that as well. One thing that Mass GIS Mass Mapper told me was that this property falls within something called prime forest land, specifically prime 2 and prime 3 forest land. And the NRCS soils data, the land was classified into 9 different categories based on potential timber productivity of white pine and red oak per acre. So whatever that's worth to you as well. But there it is. Okay. So we have, according to the BSC narrative, a clearing of 9.44 acres of forest. So the solar array and all ancillary structures going to occur over about 8.3 acres of those. And that's going to include a 1,500-foot long, 20-foot wide gravel access road with the access coming from Haines Street. The electrical tie-in is going to be on Kelly Road to the north via overhead wires leading out to Haines Street. It's not proposed to go through the BVW on the north side. So I see that as a positive anyway. The solar array is going to be in the center of the site, which is basically the crest of the hill, in a north-south configuration in 47 rows. The gravel access road is going to be on the west side of the arrays, running parallel to Haines Street, and the infiltration basin proposed in the southeast quadrant. And you know what? I think at this point I should switch over to a plan. It might be easier to follow that way. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, how do I switch, Rebecca, to a different?
I think it's just whatever you have on your screen will show up there. So if you open,
Whatever screen you're showing.
Oh,
if
okay.
you want to switch
All right.
it now and then go back to share whatever you have on.
How about that? How's that?
You got to share your
Can you
screen
see?
again.
Oh, I got to share it again?
Yeah.
Okay. Share screen. And there we go. Okay. And this is I believe this is the December 11 plan showing the wetland on the south side. So you see that or is it? No, it's not. Yes, it is. The buffer zone line comes in right in through here, but it stops. It stops right here. So there's this section of the property doesn't have a buffer zone line. All right. Okay.
So Brandon, you're talking about the southeast infiltration area before you.
Well, I was just talking about the wetland and the 500-foot buffer zone associated with it. Okay. Can you see that? Where the buffer zone line stops about right here? I'd like to know from the applicant eventually why that was.
500.
Okay.
That's 500?
So then,
Yes.
one of the requirements under the bylaw is a no significant impact analysis. So when determining whether significant adverse impact could occur or has occurred, the commission shall include in its review all potential cumulative impacts to resource areas and all work conducted within the 200-foot buffer from the time of adoption of the applicable regulations. So CMG provided a review of the state and stormwater regulations, and I concur with their analysis. For that, I'm not an engineer, but for what that's worth, I concur with it. I have some recommendations on top of that as well. And the project is subject to the new construction standards and DEP program policy 17-1 photovoltaic system solar array review. And I think this is important. As stated in the policy, I quote, large wooded parcels of land historically, which have been difficult to develop in the past due to steep topography, shallow bedrock, or poor percolation rates are often targeted for conversion to solar. Development of such sites present unique challenges, end quote. I believe this is indeed the case with this property and this project. There's no doubt in my mind that the expansive disturbance will be done in an area within 500 feet of the BVW, and that's going to include the clear cutting the forest on slopes that are equal to or greater than 8% that lead down to BVW. Not to mention the residential area to the west, which is the Sturbridge Retirement Co-op, which has a cut slope on that side where the hill was cut into, and it's extremely steep. And to the south to the single family residence, and I think it's condos down there. So the point is the potential for significant problems during construction process is very real, in my opinion. And in the end, it's going to come down to the commission's personal comfort with the project to allow it to move forward. But in order to help you decide, I offer the following comments, okay? And the first is some supplemental comments to the CMG report. I personally don't believe that the silt socks, compost filter socks are going to be enough to control potential erosion and sedimentation on site. I recommend that a silt fence be installed directly below the filter socks with a high quality fabric and stake spacing of no less than 4 feet apart. The more stakes you have, the stronger it's going to be. And I also think that the silt socks should be have a 100% biodegradable sheathing with no vinyl mesh. I am not a fan of vinyl mesh or vinyl sheathing. I prefer, even if it's considered the photodegradable kind. And sedimentation controls like the silt socks and the silt fence should be placed at least 5 feet away from the bottom of any slope or proposed slope to allow sediment settling before it reaches the erosion control, sedimentation control structure. If you put them right at the bottom of the slope, they get blown over very easily. If you put them at least 5 feet off the bottom of the slope, it allows any sediment that's coming down to settle out, slow down, and then it hits the fence, and it's less likely to overtop. So I recommend that tweak to be made wherever possible. And if you can't do it, I just recommend reducing the scale of the project. Because, again, steep slopes, and there are wetlands, especially on the north side, are closer. On the south side, they're further away, and there is a stone wall that will act like a silt fence. but I still have grave concerns about the potential for erosion. And I'm a little shell-shocked at the moment because I'm working for the another town right now, not far away from Sturbridge, where the 2 storms that we had in the last 3 weeks, the Sunday night and the Monday storms, if you remember those, it's caused tremendous problems and blowouts that have gone, I kid you not, a third of a mile from the site. And the slopes here are even steeper. The stone construction entrance should extend farther into the site, in my opinion, preferably into and around the construction staging area. I think that the SWIP should be provided to the commission when it becomes available per Stormwater Standard 8. And due to the steep slopes, the commission should consider that the applicant provide weekly inspection logs and reports associated with the SWIP and the construction general permit they're going to have to obtain. And you may also consider having an outside professional monitor the site like this on top of the applicant's SWIP inspector, to like be an overseer to make sure that everything is above board and that things are actually getting done by the contractor. That's a perennial problem because, this is my testimony, having done many of these, the contractors are focused on building the solar array and getting the project done. Soil erosion and sediment control is usually not a priority, but it has to be a priority on this site because of the steep slopes and the proximity to the BVWs. And I can guarantee that there's going to be some serious erosion sedimentation potential with the severity of the storms that even this last year, if you want to take an example. And I think it's going to keep on going. So definitely a big concern of mine. The long-term operation and maintenance plan should be made as in perpetuity condition. That's a standard thing I always recommend. Not only does infiltration basin 1 not include a sediment forebay, it doesn't appear to have an emergency overflow spillway, and I'm interested as to why that is, because I don't think it should be like that. In CMG's comment 17, they state that the berm elevation for infiltration basin 1, which is the one that's going to be on the north side over here, which would then flow down towards the co-op. They say it should have a height crest minimum of 1 foot so that you'll have 1 foot of freeboard above the 100-year storm event. Because of the steep slopes, the proximity to housing, I recommend that you go even higher, just as a preventative measure. Okay. And my question, are there any emergency overflow discharges for the subsurface infiltration systems? It's usually, if it gets backed up, where's that water going to go? It's usually an emergency overflow, and then where would that water be directed to? Okay. Any questions on the stormwater aspects of it before I go on? Okay. Some of my own comments, more on the the wetland and biological end of it. I recommend the applicant provide as detailed a construction sequence as possible, including times of year when work will occur. For example, what time of the year would the trees be felled, stumped, and the tree materials removed? The site's going to be felled and cleared of trees and I presume stumped. Will the trees and stumps be chipped on site? Will any of this material be used for erosion sediment controls, because they can be very effective? But that said, I'm not a big fan of wood chips. Wood chips tend to float in water and go downhill. But I'm a big fan of root tailings, which is the ground up roots and stumps. The root tailings tend to be more curved and kind of grab into the soil. You can use it as a cover on the steep slopes. You can also turn them into berms. They can be pretty effective as well. So the point is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. root tailings from any chippings here can be useful on site. So I recommend that. If the tree, the trees themselves and the trunks that are harvested, very often it goes to a forest harvester. If they're going to be removed from the site, my question is, will they be removed using the existing gravel entrance near the southwest part of the property, which is more down in this area? Or are they going to be using the new entrance over here? And is either entrance large enough to accommodate skid steers, cutting equipment, logging trucks? Either way, a stone construction entrance is going to be required, and the longer the better, because the wheels tend to get clogged up with dirt and mud, and that'll get tracked onto Haines Street, if not elsewhere. Because if it gets onto Haines Street, that means that it may come from a catch basin and through that double RCP discharge pipe and back into the wetlands. I really don't have any comments about the types and locations of where the seed's going to be spread, which is on sheet 409, but having worked many large-scale solar projects and reviewed even more, I think that the inclusion of a pollinator mix, seed mix, is a bit of a joke, for lack of other term. These kinds of seed mixes require a lot of TLC over time, and if you don't reseed, or if you don't have a nice rich loam for it to grow in, you're going to end up with generalized grasses and seeds. So I don't know how you all feel about the pollinator mix. It's good window dressing in my opinion, but in reality, having seen this time and time again, it ends up being scraggly grass and weeds. So unless you have a condition that makes them keep up with this, you're going to end up not with a pollinator seed mix in the end. Okay. My main concern for the impacts revolves around the BVW on the north side of the property, especially since the majority of the site is located off, the majority of the wetlands are located off-site. Up here, it's on land owned by the Sturbridge Retirement Co-op. Down here, the land in the south side is owned, I'm guessing, by the Condo Association. And don't put it out of your minds, but I recommend a bond, if you can do it. Because if the water flies down this hill, it's going to end up off-site, which is going to create a mess trying to clean it up, because then you're going to have to get permission from the neighbors to allow the cleanup to happen. If you have the bond, it could stave off complications and enforcement and potential civil actions among the parties involved. I'm just thinking ahead. This is all worst case scenario, but it's very real in my opinion. The applicant order is going to have to obtain authorization from the Sturbridge Retirement Co-op to perform the work, and it applies the same to the south. So don't put a bond out of question here. Other concerns is they revolve around the public interests, public and private water supply. The co-op has 2 community wells to the east. Clearing land and grading affects runoff and direction in which water flows. Assurances need to be gained from the applicant in this regard, not to mention the residences to the south at a minimum. Protection of groundwater supply, same comments, plus assurances that the BVW to the north at a minimum will be able to continue to be a groundwater source. It's mostly done through compliance with the stormwater standards. Prevention of pollution. The BVW has water quality functions in addition to its other functions. Sediment from the slope, should it happen, would significantly impair that ability. Protection of fisheries. There's no streams on site. I saw no streams on the wetland on the north side. There is a stream on the wetland on the south side. So I wouldn't rule out including fisheries as a presumption of significance. Protection of wildlife habitat, it's a concern for me, not only for the BVW, but for the buffer zone associated with it. I said at the beginning, this forest is good to high quality, in my opinion. No invasive or exotic species were observed that I could see. During my walks, I observed a large wasp nest in a tree walking a cut trail towards the summit. The tree's mature. There's good spatial heterogeneity in the herbaceous shrub and tree layers. And I talked about the presence of mountain laurel and chestnut oak as well. Okay. So the cumulative effect that the wildlife habitat has in this case is high. Erosion and sediment control, I think that one's self-explanatory. The potential for significant erosion sedimentation, as well as the distance it may reach from its source, is high. The BVW and buffer zone would be irreparably harmed if this significant sedimentation event happened, and it would be even more difficult to clean up. This other site that I'm working, that's a solar farm, this one's on 27 acres. It's ongoing right now. There was a big blowout, and they're currently in the woods working with a vac truck to literally suck the sediment up. And it's going very slow, and it's a mess, and we have to get permission from the adjacent landowners because the source is the source where the sediment came from is different than where it landed, different properties. Protection of water quality. Similar to prevention of pollution, the BVW provides water quality functions that would be significantly impacted by a sedimentation event. Protection of agriculture. And only in respect to tree harvesting, which is considered a form of agriculture. In this case, the forested would be harvested, right? Which appears to be a positive towards this interest. But if the solar array is constructed, it would be the last time that the forest would be harvested for decades to come, if ever. Okay. One of the lessons learned that I have has to do with soil analysis. And usually the engineers look at something called the hydrologic soil group, A, B, C, or D. The soils here are considered to be what we call loose till, which is usually a category B or C hydrologic soil group. And the specific soil type is Canton soils, which is a loose till. Keep in mind that there are inclusions in any soil mapping unit. There are inclusions of other soil types that were too small to map because otherwise you'd have lines everywhere. This kind of landscape is very often mixed in with dense till, which we call hardpan, if you're familiar with it, which usually starts between 2 and 4 feet down below the soil surface. And the big weakness, in my opinion, with stormwater analysis and infiltration rates is that they base the infiltration rate on a soil texture, but they don't base it on soil consistency. Okay, so soil consistency has to do with how dense the soil is, and it ranges from, you know, very friable, which means it falls apart very easily, has a good perk rate, to extremely firm, which means that it's the same texture, but it's like a rock. It just holds together and doesn't infiltrate water. And I am concerned that I just want to make sure that the applicant has done their on-site soil testing, witnessed by a competent professional, to confirm the soil consistency on site, that we're not going to be running into extremely firm soils because the rates, the infiltration rates they use are standardized based on texture only and not soil consistency. If you take soil consistency into consideration and you run into dense till, your infiltration rate is going to be much slower. And I believe that these basins that are proposed And the subsurface infiltration, by standard, they have to be dry within 72 hours of the precipitation event. I don't want to see a situation where the basins and the subsurface infiltration units are holding water beyond that 72-hour period because there wasn't a consideration of soil consistency taken. Those are the concerns. You know, the number one is the slopes, proximity to wetlands, proximity to other structures, and the potential for soil erosion. That's the big ticket item here, and you heard my other concerns. So that's the big speech, and I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to Adrian.
That's a lot. Anybody need to break it? Very thorough, Brandon.
Yeah, you're right. I want to make sure I do a thorough job.
At this time. Hello, Adrian.
Adrian, Ed's asking if you want to respond to anything at this time?
Oh, no. Thank you, though.
You're not muted, but we can't hear you. I don't know if maybe your volume's down.
Maybe that helps.
Oh, yeah, that helps.
No, not at this time. Thank you, though.
All right.
I think we have a whole nother round of stormwater reports to work through for the civil side, and then I'll be able to draft a response.
Great. All right. Anybody in the audience like to speak? Come up to the mic. Not going to bring your wife either this time?
She's here. And I can mention that my name is Mark Murphy. I'm a resident of 30 Bentwood Drive. My wife is a trustee. I'm not a trustee. So I can't speak legally for the group, but I know that Mr. Faniff did mention that the group to the south is the Sturbridge Crossing Condominium Association. And that...
To the east.
Well, there's a Sturbridge Co-op to the east, and then the Sturbridge Crossing, the Bentwood is to the south.
We're the condominium.
Yeah.
We're not the retirement community. That is the co-op. We're not the co-op, we're a condominium association. We're to the south. And so you mentioned the south many times in your report. I'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Faniff. That was extremely thorough. We as residents feel very protected by the Conservation Commission. You've been terrific. And that report did state everything that we brought up on the first meeting that we're so concerned about. Namely and primarily, it's the water runoff into those first 6 units that have a private septic. Serving those 6. There are private wells within our association, and so the erosion and the runoff is of primary concern, and so we really appreciate it very much. We feel very protected. The one other quick thing that I will say is that the trustees are on record, on public record at the Registry of Deeds as to who they are. I can tell you, quite frankly, once again, my wife is a trustee. The trustees would like to give the conservation, Mr. Faniff, Ms. Lennon and her group access anytime that you would like access to the property to know where is the septic, where is the property line, and we need to be very cooperative and to allow for access so that facts can be established. And finally, we do have beautiful mountain laurel both on our property and on that abutting property, some of which is variegated. I've only seen this kind of variegated mountain laurel that we have at the Biltmore in the Carolinas. So we appreciate Mr. Faniff's comments and all of his suggestions, and we appreciate the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else with that? Any comments?
I just had one question of Brandon. Again, thank you for your thorough report. You talked about the staging of the construction and scheduling and whatnot. One of the things we talked about on site with Adrian was obviously they're moving the access point due to kind of the interchange with the electrical system. from what is currently available, the current access road. We had discussed the possibility, or I'd asked the possibility of utilizing the current access road to kind of start the clearing in there, so there's less impact, and they can get in there and clear, starting there, and then, you know, armor the property as they go along, as opposed to doing the road and then going all the way in. Do you have an opinion, Brandon, as to whether or not that approach would be a net positive to the overall project if it was to move forward?
Okay, so let me make sure I have it right. Currently, there is an entrance right here,
Yes.
right? And they want to move it to over here, right? Yeah, I kind of wondered why that was. I think you helped answer that. Or is it, there's problems with, what, electrical lines or something?
That's my understanding, yes.
Right. Well, I can tell you, this is kind of steep over here where they're proposing it. And one of the comments that CMG had is that there was no culvert underneath this to help allow water flowing down the side of Haines Street to go through, because otherwise it would build up. I didn't mention it because it would be redundant and it should already be getting taken care of. But yeah, it's kind of narrow, steep slopes on either side of this, and it goes up, let's see, 678 to 684. So it's not, I guess, not too bad of a slope right there, but it is very close to the wetland and to the stormwater discharge that goes into the wetland. That's, I'm presuming, has been there forever. That's why we're not too concerned about it. Over here, the slopes, as they are right now, I think are less steep, but you can see there's a lot of grading proposed here. You're going to be going from about, what, 710, 715, and you're going to be going uphill very quickly right here. So the way they have it designed, it's not going to work. But this area over here, definitely farther away from the wetlands, which, you know, the further you can get away from the wetlands, always the better. Little less steep. You can wind up this hill a little more easily with less, you know, steepness. I do like that idea personally, but I don't know if it works into the design. It all is going to come down to your personal comfort with the way this is designed over here, its proximity to the wetland, the potential for, let's say, for lack of a better term, problems that could result from having an entrance at this location next to the wetland, as opposed to over here further away from the wetland.
So we did bring that up. We did bring that up initially and asked that question, why for the complete project it couldn't be relocated, and right, it was because of the electrical lines, what we were told. But maybe there is a way that they can use that in the initial parts of the project, like we talked about on site. And I think that's where, you know, asking for and getting a detailed phase construction sequence plan as part of the review process, I think would be useful, because, right, we don't want the whole site grubbed at once, and just having the erosion controls around the perimeter isn't going to be sufficient. So I think there should be erosion controls throughout, and try to phase and, as Brandon mentioned, use those stump grindings or whatever they can to help kind of, you know, keep erosion from happening on the site as they're moving through it. You know, their plan, right, you get a contractor in, they're gonna cut the trees, they're gonna rub it, they're gonna start putting in panels and start seeding as they go. But on a site like this, I think that you can't do that. We should be getting a better phase plan. And I do recommend that we do that as part of the review process, because once, if we do it as a condition, what's gonna happen is once people get their permits, they're gonna go to their contractor and they're gonna be in a rush to start work. And the details are gonna get lost, where we can have some more control of those details now.
Right, I agree with Rebecca, and I'm thinking logistically,
The road going up now.
how's this gonna work with trucks and equipment coming in here? Where they're gonna be able to turn around and then get back out? And it's pretty narrow, you know, there's only enough room for one vehicle at a time. Logistics matter. So I think about what's coming in, what's coming out, getting in and out of here, turning around, backing up, how is that going to work over here? And would it be any better if it happened over in this location, at least to begin with? You're going to have skid steers, you're going to have trucks coming in and out. So we need to think about that as well and the logistics of that.
Okay. That was my only question, Ed. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
All right, so our next meeting is on January 25th. Adrian, do you think that's going to be enough time to do a response to the comments in the most recent CMG peer review comments and revisions for?
Let's try to stay on for it, and
okay.
I'll connect with Civil tomorrow and see what he has on the books over the next 2 weeks.
Okay. So would you like a continuation to January 25th?
Yes, please.
Continuation?
Motion to continue the public hearing until the 25th of January.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Edwin Glass in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Thank you, Brandon, for coming on.
Great job.
Yep, thank you for having me, letting me do it remote.
All right, just quickly before we go to the next public hearing, I noticed that Tracy from Mass DOT is on here. Are you still on here, Tracy? You're just on mute, so I just want to double check here.
Hi, Rebecca. Yes, I'm so sorry. I mixed up the meetings, and I thought this one started at 7. We've had several this week. So.
Oh, no problem. So we did discuss the DOT enforcement order at the beginning of the meeting. The Lake Association was here. The commission did vote to release the enforcement order. The only thing that they are asking for is that when you do the annual maintenance out there, that we coordinate that with staff from our office, and the Cedar Lake Association would like to be present too, to kind of walk and just check all of the drainage structures.
Okay, sure. That shouldn't be a problem at all. And yeah, that's actually a good idea, because the for those stilling wells, we have to take those, they have the cast iron covers, so that's not something that, anybody could observe at any time. So, and it's good to just walk through the site together.
Okay.
So I will I'll respond to that in an email to you and copy Raul, and we'll send that to Arthur to make sure that that happens.
Okay, and then we can probably, through the email there, we can probably try to set something up for maybe late spring to maybe go out. That'll be a year since everything was last implemented out there, I think the last final things, and we can coordinate that.
Yes, unfortunately, I apologize that this has gone on this long.
No problem. All right, and I'll also draft a letter with that release of the enforcement order too.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate everybody working with us.
No problem. Have a nice evening.
You too.
We're at
Thanks.
6:35.
Got a little behind there.
Big Alum, continued notice of intent, Big Alum Aquatic Vegetation Management, DEP file number, no number.
Correct. So we do have AJ, the representative, online here. We don't have a DEP file number yet, and AJ and I did have the opportunity to connect last week and talk about some options on how to facilitate this permit with giving some flexibility with it. So AJ wanted to come on and give you an update, and they will be submitting some additional information with a revised narrative for that, hopefully for the next meeting, and maybe we'll have the DEP file number at that point. All right, AJ, do you want to go over that?
Sure. Would you mind if I share my screen? I have a few things I'll just show while I'm speaking.
Yeah. I'm going to make you the presenter, and then you just have to use the share screen button down the bottom there.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, first time using GoTo. All right. Looks like, can you see this document over here?
Yeah, but you might want to zoom in a little bit for us.
Sure,
you
sure.
can.
Yeah. So basically, Rebecca and I had a conversation, just exactly what she said about
That's
trying
perfect.
to figure out a way to maintain, the maximum amount of flexibility we can with the aquatic vegetation treatments, but obviously, we don't want to cut a blank check to sort of do, to treat everything under the sun. That's not really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that the treatments are, achieving the goal of, minimizing the impact of the excessive growth of aquatic vegetation, but not going to the point where it is sort of overkill, for lack of a better word, treating areas that don't need to be treated and so on. So through a conversation and through conversations with the Big Alum Lake Association, we came up with 3 sort of conditions for treatment. I would call these like standing treatments, and these treatments would happen from the Big Alum Association every single year, and deviations from these 3 treatments would have to go before the Conservation Commission for either an amendment to the order of conditions or perhaps a whole new, notice of intent process, depending on the level of deviation from the particular plans. So I'm going to go through all 3 of these. I also have some photos of the plants too that I can share as well, just so you kind of have an idea of what we're looking at. Some of them, you may have seen before, some are relatively new. So the first condition, or not condition, but the first sort of treatment regime we are proposing is very similar to what was in the initial order of conditions, and is what's been recommended by the consultant, TRC Consultants, TRC companies for Big Alum currently this year. And that's a standing treatment for both curly leaf pondweed and clasping leaf pondweed in a maximum of 40 acres of the lake. For this treatment, the Big Alum Association would request that either fluoridone or diquat, two EPA registered aquatic herbicides, could be potentially used to control up to 40 acres combined for both of the particular plants. That's what's mapped out in the notice of intent. 40 acres is also the number that the association feels with TRC and also in GEI's agreement as well, that is potentially impacting, is excessive growth that's impacting the rest of the lake in terms of its ecology and also recreation as well. So the idea is that the association could treat up to 40 acres of both of these plants using either diquat or fluoridone. One thing about these herbicides, and I did send Rebecca an addendum talking about all the different herbicides with different trade names and stuff. It gets very confusing. Fluoridone has 2 different formulations, so it comes in a liquid formulation and a granular formulation. The association would like the flexibility to use either of them, and the reason why you would use one or the other, it depends on the site-specific areas you're trying to treat. For example, there are areas of Big Alum Pond that get a lot of wave action, and if you put a liquid herbicide down in that area, the concentration is not going to hold, and you're just going to be wasting product at that point. A granular product may be more, may have a better option in that area. Vice versa, a product like diquat, if you have a few plants that you want to target, but there's also other native plants that you want to leave, diquat's not a great option for that. Diquat would be a great option if you have a monoculture. So the idea, once again, listing different active ingredients, is let's give us some flexibility to also make good site-specific choices on, reducing impacts to native species and so on. We have label rates that we've provided before in the appendix I sent to Rebecca, but also in our filing in our updated documents we're going to be sending over for the next meeting. The second option is a standing treatment of up to 10 acres of filamentous algae and/or cyanobacteria. So currently, we don't have a great understanding scientifically of where the filamentous and the cyanobacteria occur in Big Alum Pond. I know that Big Alum hasn't had a history of these chronic, beach closing blooms of the cyanobacteria. That's the harmful algae blooms that you hear on the news. They have had some filamentous algae in the past. However, without knowing the true distribution of these plants, it's very hard to, or this algae, it's very hard to sort of ask for, oh, we need to treat 20 acres a year, we need to treat 10 acres a year, we need to treat 5 acres a year. We don't really know. So what Rebecca and I were talking about, and what the association agreed with, was an up to 10 acres treatment as long as that algae is documented during the same year by the association and/or a professional that's out in the lake. So the way this would work is that, let's say, the professional who's surveying the lake or residents go out and they see a algae bloom in like the north end of Big Allen Pond. The idea is that if the Big Allen Association would like to treat that bloom of algae, they would need to take photo documentation and send it into Rebecca for approval by the Conservation Commission staff, as long as it is under 10 acres. And as long as it's under 10 acres and it is clearly documented, the Big Allen Association would be allowed to treat that with 2 types of products, either a copper-based product or peroxide-based product. And it's the intent of this treatment is only to target the algae that is present currently. There are arguments to do proactive treatments. However, as I said in the beginning, we just don't know the distribution of the algae in the lake well enough to justify a proactive treatment at this moment. And we don't want to use more product than we need. So the idea right now is to work on more of a reactive approach. And then if future years reveal, oh, there's a bunch of algae, let's say, that's on the bottom waiting to pop up, maybe the strategy changes and then the association can come before the Conservation Commission again. But currently, it would just be, this treatment strategy would just be for whatever algae is seen up to 10 acres. So, for example, if the group if Big Allen sees 20 acres of algae, then they need to go back to the commission and justify the reason to treat that upwards of 20 acres. And the idea is just, once again, to put guardrails on this to make sure that the treatments are necessary for exactly, they're not deviating from the purpose of, reducing the issue but not going overboard. And then the third option was the option of treatment of potential new invasive species that could be entering the lake. In my experience, and I manage probably, in my career, I've probably managed over 60, 70 different water bodies in the Northeast. If you do not treat an aquatic invasive species the minute you see it, you're just going to be, the next year it's going to keep growing and become a real problem. So it's important that the Big Allen Association has flexibility in being able to address a problem the minute they see it. So what we talked about to sort of address this is to allow the potential treatment of 4 potential invaders, 4 potential new species to Big Allen if they show up in that same year. So, for example, let's say a resident is out on the lake and sees this plant they've never seen before, or a surveyor goes out and they see a plant they haven't seen on the lake before. The idea is that this plant would get verified. The surveyor would go out and try to delineate maybe the size of the patch, say, is it a half acre, is it maybe 10 square feet, is it 10 acres already? And then under this provision, and under that 40 acres that was initially set out in the first provision, the association would be able to rapid respond to that particular patch and treat it almost immediately. Luckily, the 2 products that we listed in the beginning in the standing treatment for curly-leaf pondweed, the Diquat and the Floridone, both of those products will work in a pinch on all 4 of these species that I'm listing here. And I'm listing Eurasian water milfoil, variable leaf water milfoil, fanwort, and hydrilla. However, there are 2 other products that are probably the most preferred for those and probably are going to have the highest likelihood of success in terms of eliminating the infestation. So we wanted to put those and list those as well, and that's Percellacor and Clipper. And the idea there is, once again, if those species are found, the association will be in contact with the Conservation Commission, let them know how big the patch is, show them that there's some sort of a positive ID. Usually the applicators can make that positive ID with pictures, and then the idea is that they will be allowed to sort of treat that in early rapid response. This will still, for any of these different treatments that potentially happen on the lake, there will still be an annual report that is submitted to the Conservation Commission talking about all the other things we spoke about in the last meeting in terms of total amount of product used, plans for next year, the results from the annual survey that's being proposed at the end of the year to track all of these changes. So the idea, once again, is just to streamline the flexibility to, once again, hit that middle ground of having the most flexibility, but also being careful not to sort of overdo it with the amount of herbicide being used. So I know that was a lot, and we'll obviously submit documents once we're able to get those ready for the next meeting, but I'm open to answer any questions about just that general strategy.
Eric, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good for now.
So we are going with 3?
No, we haven't got a number on this yet.
I don't have the DEP number.
No DEP number, but.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Yeah, so 3 herbicide strategies. In addition, they still want to do the drawdown of 30 inches every year with 36 every 5th year. So on top of this, but this changed all the herbicide discussions from before to kind of focus it in a little bit.
Seems like a good plan.
Yeah. Reasonable approach, puts the guardrails in place that we had asked for, and gives them a little bit of flexibility to be nimble.
Deal with.
Yep.
Alejandro, are you going to come back with areas, the 40 acres, for example, that you're going to be treating? I mean, are we going to hear about that?
Yes, for the next meeting, I have to speak to the association and TRC because they're the ones that are going to be delineating the specific areas that needed to be done. But so yes, that will be included in the next meeting's
Will residents be made aware of when the treatments are being done and where? Residents of the lake I'm talking about?
Yes. I mean, sorry, it's a little. I'm trying to make sure I hear that correctly. So, are you saying you want to know that the Conservation Commission will be alerted of when the treatments are and where before the treatments happen?
No, not the Conservation Commission. The people who live on the lake.
Yes, I believe. Yes, I believe. So, the Big Alum Association will be responsible for letting folks know when that happens, and I believe that's also a permit requirement from Mass DEP.
Yeah, and it is something that we would add as a condition. We would get notified and then in 5 days in advance or something. I forget what's written in the permits, what's required. They'll have to post that for anyone using any of the access areas.
Some of the 5 species that you're listing here as new, I don't believe are new. They've been treated in the past.
As far as we know, the 4 species here, the Eurasian variable, fanwort, and hydrilla, have not been found in Big Alum, but they are present in Massachusetts. Some is close to the Connecticut River, some, and I know probably in the same town of Stowbridge, definitely Eurasian water milfoil.
Yeah.
So the idea is that they're not there yet, but they could show up very soon.
I think at least 2 other water bodies being treated for that.
Right.
2 or
Yeah.
3 actually. Yeah. In town, so.
Okay. All right, I don't have any questions. Anybody in the audience have any questions? Have any questions? No?
Motion to continue the public hearing until January 25th.
My God.
Second the motion.
Any discussion, Carson? No. All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stieber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, Alejandro. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, we are now to 72 Paradise Lane, notice of intent, construction of a cantilever dock, DEP file number 300-1180. Okay.
All right, so this was continued from a few meetings ago. We were waiting for DEP file number and comment. We've received those. It is included in the packet for you. We did receive some additional information from the applicant's representative to some of the questions that the commission has had in DEP, if you want to go over that, and I can put the plan up. There's been no plan change for this one. It was also continued to allow for that additional site visit to go out there and look at it. Do you want me to put the plan up? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, excuse me, Mark Levine from Ground Effects, representing Bob Muscaro, the property owner at 72 Paradise Lane. And we're requesting a dock, a cantilever dock to be built, 6 foot wide, 32 foot in length. And in response to the DEP, well, let me go back to your questions first from the last meeting. I've included just repeating again, the only regulations that we can find that give us actual measurements. We're at 192 square feet, where allowed by the Chapter 91 dock provision is 600 square feet, so we're only using 32% of what is available by the Inland Waterways dock license. I've provided all the numbers structurally. You had asked structurally what the numbers would be to prove that the cantilever dock would support the weight being used, and we're well underneath what the calculations allow us. The dock can only 42 and a half people roughly could be taking up dock space if it was completely full, and that the dock actually would accommodate 75 people weight-wise. And there's no real calculation that can be done that, in addition to these, the dock is actually stronger because it's buried and it has friction from the earth around the counterweight. So these numbers are actually lower than what the dock capacity can actually support. The DEP, in their request, they wanted to make sure that we met performance standards for the 310 regulation 10.54, naturally occurring banks and beaches. Where the dock is cantilevered and there's already a wall in place, we're not really affecting the bank, so we consider that we're going to meet all their requirements for the bank. We're not going into the water with any machinery, even people, or the dock has no structure in the water. So that's how we, with those items, we believe we meet those performance standards. And on 310, 10.56, which they asked to meet those performance standards, we believe we also do that. That regulation is for land under the water bodies and waterways, any creek, river, stream, pond. And where we're not going to be in the water, we're obviously not going to affect the land underneath. And they also want to know about shading impacts. The cantilever dock is preferred over a floating dock because it does let light pass through it. We have the ability to expand the spacing between the deck to 1/4 inch to allow more light to penetrate. Also, the dock is above the water, allows light to penetrate through there. And there's no vegetation under this dock area that shading would affect. And the main concern with shading, according to the state documentation, has to deal with seagrass, and obviously there's no seagrass there. And in studies, northern states have shown to show less impact than southern states just because of the track of the sun. Underwater notes, again, we will not be affecting underwater, the land in any way, because nothing touches the ground. There's no piers, posts, tubes. The entire structure is floating over the water in the air. So the advantage we feel over floating dock or seasonal dock is that there's no mechanical, well, not going to be in the water a minimum of twice a year to pull the dock in or out. So there's no disturbance to fisheries or, aquatic life or anything of that nature. So that's why we feel that we meet all the performance standards and regulations as far as that goes. So the dock itself, after it's constructed, from the wall, all the shoreline is going to be completely put back to exactly the way it is right now, so there'll be no visible impact to the shoreline or behind the water line that shows any appearance that the dock was installed. So, I mean, that's all the studying and researching of papers. There's not a lot in the Northeast. I found a bunch in Canada. I found a bunch in Michigan, California. And they basically say, you know, land pipe docks are the easiest are easy on aquatic environment. So if we're not even going to be having pipes in the water, I think the assumption would be that a cantilever dock would have even less impact. And the same one goes on to say that cantilever docks do not disturb water or submerge lands. And the rest is just other, I have more shading impact information, but that's basically the information on that dock.
Eric, you want to stop?
Remind me, I'm a very visual person, and
Yeah.
we saw 4 different locations.
Right. This is the absolute first one. There's a stone wall with a stone patio behind it.
Yep, okay,
that
so this
house-
wasn't the one that had the big anchor stone that we had, because
we're not-
there was we were gonna talk about shifting that, that's not the one we're talking about
That's the
here.
next one.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
So there was a scratch out in your plan, or in your narrative that you submitted about moving something.
That's
4 feet
because
over.
a lot of the paperwork, the findings are the same. And
Okay,
I
all
just-
right, that's what I was concerned about.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's all.
Okay, all right, no questions.
This is the one that I believe the house is being torn down and a new house is being constructed there.
Yeah, now I thank you for jogging.
And there
my
was
memory.
there's no plant material there, so that's why there's no mitigation offered.
I just think it's good design. I like the fact you're not impacting the water at all. And we're just gonna have to control, there's gonna be some element of control around the construction site during this process as it relates to the lake. But, and I think the really only thing is, if it's gonna go back to exactly the way it was, I know you've taken pictures, and in this case, it's literally stone, so it's just gonna recreate the stone patio. That's
Exactly.
And, so, yeah.
I had a couple of questions. First of all, what elevation do you mark the lake at to start this?
We go in, for both of these places, this one and the next one, when the water is at the dam height, I just do a drill borehole in a stone, so I have that as a benchmark as to what the high water mark is.
In the stone, meaning the wall?
Right. I have little drill marks right where the water was when the water was cresting the dam. So I know what the high water mark is.
So then what do you do from there? How far off of the high water mark do you build?
Well, then it's basically, what I've been going by is what the customer wishes are, but they're generally 4 to 6 inches above the water.
Why are some of the ones that I've seen out there way more than 4 to 6 inches above the water?
I couldn't, any one of the ones that we've built are generally 4 to 6 inches above the water. People want to be as close as they can to the water. And then you have the elevation of the steel.
Did you build a Roscioli?
Yeah.
So you're saying that's 4 to 6 inches?
When the water is at its high water mark, it is. There's times where it's greater than that because the water's not cresting the dam.
There's also buildup underneath the dock on that one, with boulders, to bring it up to an additional level from what the land was.
I don't know. I'm not clear on what you're saying.
Well, if you look at it and you look underneath it, there's a
Yep.
buildup.
Yep.
You know, it was raised up when it was built.
Right. These are being done a different way. I mean, this would be the 6th one that we've done on a lake. In every one, we feel we're doing advancements to minimize any impact. Like that one, Roscioli, as you noticed, the counterweight is right at the water line, and we disguised it with boulders and stuff. The counterweight is further back to not disturb any of the shoreline.
So how far, this is a 32-foot that you're putting up?
Right.
How far back would the counterweight go?
The counterweight will be 12 feet back completely because it comes over the wall, which is 2 feet, and then we go another 10 feet behind that.
So you're going back 10 feet?
12 feet from the water line back is where the back of the counterweight will be.
And the counterweight will be cement?
Poured concrete.
And what, poured concrete is about, what, 4,000 pounds per
square foot?
Per square?
Excuse me, per square yard.
Cube.
Yeah.
So, in that case, you'd probably be putting in, you're putting in a damn lot of cement, pouring in that yard, right?
Yeah, it's roughly, I have all the numbers right here. It's roughly 10 yards, so that counterweight weighs 42,666 pounds.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so how many square cubic feet of cement would be poured on that?
It's roughly 10 cubic yards of concrete.
10 cubic yards?
Yeah.
Yeah. And will that be going down, up, side? What's the configuration?
This one will be 6 foot wide, the wide as the dock, and 10 foot back. And then it's 4 feet deep.
Yeah. Okay. So that dock will be, when drawdown, that'll be 36 inches or 40 inches out of the water?
Correct.
And then it'll go down to where it's like 4 to 6 inches out of the water?
When the water comes back up to the dam height.
Yeah.
Yeah. The danger of getting too high is with a boat getting underneath it. If the lake goes down, if it's a dry season, you don't want the water to get too low.
Yeah, no,
so the boat can float below beneath the dock, excuse me.
Now, in looking at this, what improvements have you made to, we have a bylaw, as you know, which is, you want me to read it to you, I can. No, 25 feet, no touch, which you're touching. 50 feet, is also prevented, but the issue here is that if in order to allow a variance, you have to show improvement.
Well, I don't know how the bylaw is for seasonal docks. This is a permanent structure.
No, the bylaw doesn't have anything to do.
He's talking about the wetland bylaw with the 25 feet disturb and waiver requirement.
The wetland bylaw isn't for seasonal docks. We do have a town, we've got 25 feet long is what the harbor master has, required, which, there's logic and safety in that, and the width, 4 feet is a norm around the lake for floating docks. I'm not, So are you going to be able to drive a car on this when it's
Well, I don't think you'd be able to. I don't know if you'd be able to get a car down there.
Why wouldn't I be able to?
What's that?
Why wouldn't I be able to?
Just physical restrictions to get a vehicle down there.
Not on that lot, there isn't. Just come right down the hill.
Well, okay, I don't know why anybody would drive a car down there. I'm sure that we could add to the structure and put, stanchion poles or something in there to prevent that, if that's a concern.
Yeah, but the golf cart routine is very common, as you know, around the lakes, and that would be a concern when people would be driving out on they want docks they can drive out on. And I also saw where you're talking about what pontoon boats parked sideways on the and even within the state bylaw, they're saying that you should drive in straight and back out, and you shouldn't be doing sideways parking of the boats.
Yeah, I don't even know that would be for parking for these people. It's just to get people on and off of a boat if there's other boats docked there. I'm sure that you would be able to disembark, get off a boat and get on a boat, and the boat could carry on.
Couldn't you use 25 feet by 4 feet?
Well, that side of the water is shallow, so just for navigable reasons, that's why we're asking for a 32-foot length.
Yeah. that makes sense. Could you go down to 4 feet from what, when you're at 10 feet?
No, this is 6 foot. Yeah, that's a mistake on there, it's 6 foot.
So it's a 6 foot.
Well,
6 foot wide.
this is the counterweight part, and the dock is right here, that's 6 feet.
It's particular, almost 6 feet.
Yeah.
So, right, yes, Ed's asking, can you bring that 6 feet down to 4 feet? And that also would what, minimize the
That's not a
counterweight?
patio there? You know.
Underneath it, it's all patio, where you see the counterweight and it's.
So you're making a patio on the water's edge?
I don't have, I'm making a.
Well, this is what it looks like now.
The stone, yeah, that's the patio that's there.
They're gonna pick it up, move it, and then they're gonna put it back over.
And then there'll be grass over it too, in some sections. Mark, have you ever hit groundwater?
No.
In these installs?
We won't hit it on this one or the next one.
Okay. But we could always add a condition if, and then we'd have to talk about
Where
it.
is this one, Becky?
Paradise Lane?
Yeah, I know, I'm on Paradise Lane. I was down at the end of Paradise Lane. Where we're rebuilding, we're putting a new house in?
Yeah. We're 2 houses up from that, here.
Okay. All right, sorry. Yep.
There's a big existing ash tree that it looked like the previous plan for, it's gonna be eliminated. So we're not gonna affect that tree in an adverse way. It's gonna be taken down.
All right, anybody have any other questions? Becky?
That is a good point. That we're removing 2 trees. What are we replacing them with?
So the trees that are being removed on here are part of the approved plan for the house raise and rebuild.
Okay.
And they're doing that whole
That's already
side.
we've already dealt with that, mitigated
Yes.
that
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, sorry. Okay.
I'm just looking for a practical alternative. Is an available and feasible alternative which will accomplish the proposed, the projects proposed, taking into account costs, logics, and the proposed use, and the most current technology. I'm just trying to see what's being done here to allow a waiver from construction in 25 foot.
Well, I think that what I've seen on the lake is, people will have the temporary ones that they roll out, and then they put floats out beyond that, so some of them are out 40, 45 feet. I don't think that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I just thought that the 7 feet, given the fact that it was a fair request where the water is shallower in this particular space, it's safer for boat navigation.
If I may, my rationale on this and looking at and being on site was helpful, right? And kind of looking at this, that the immediate impact is greater, right? Because they're going to have to excavate and put in the counterweight and then do the building. But in seeing, these structures go in and out of the lake twice a year, and the disturbance that happens to the floor of the lake, which can kick up and cause additional issues. I think the net impact over what's the useful life of a structure like this? It's got to be 40 years.
At least, there's some that are on it.
So you're talking about 80 different times where there's a disturbance inside of the lake below the surface versus one-time impact on the shore in an area that's already been disturbed. So that's kind of where I've landed on this myself, is I think the net impact over a 40-year period of time is much less going this way versus, you know, probably getting a 20-year useful life out of a dock that would have to be put in and taken out twice a year. So, just my 2 cents.
Well, to go back to your rationale all time, where are we headed with this? What is the equity going to be going forward? How far out are we going to go? How wide are we going to go? You know, this is the Eric rule. You know?
I understand that, right? And I would love the select board to give us some guidance on that. You know, I realize we're stuck in a very ambiguous situation, right? So, I mean, but I walked out on the current structure. It is fairly shallow out there, so I can see the rationale of wanting an additional 7 feet to go out to protect against that being shallow. And I don't know that the additional shading is something that I'm particularly concerned about, especially when we counterbalance that against, we're not going to be scraping the bottom of the lake and we're not going to have those issues. It's complicated though, because normally this stuff is handled by the harbor master and we get direction there. We don't have that. I think we should ask for it, but that's not going to happen in a timely fashion. So I think we just need to make a decision and encourage the harbor master to give us some direction, which may or may not happen, you know, anytime soon.
Why don't we ask for that as a board before we make a decision? Well, why should we go forward and making arbitrary? There are shallow places all over that lake.
I get that.
And then there's
we asked them already, and they basically
we have to go beyond. You're going to get every kind. This is a nightmare area.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
We had this before Concom when I started, and I think the thing we should do, and he's given me reasonable answers for what my concerns were. But I don't know going forward if that's what we're going to see. And I think that we should involve the selectmen.
Well, we already have though. And you know, we can't control what they decide to take up and what they decide to punt on. And we've already made a request. And
they punted?
That was my understanding, that we made a request and they basically ignored it. Or decided not to take any action on it, right?
They want to comment on these. They're looking into, the town administrator is looking into if and what options could be available to them to set parameters for these type of things.
If that's a regulation change, you'd have to put that
So, I mean,
part of a public hearing, and that would be a very hotly contested
the one that we have
regulation in the state.
I don't think the one that, I don't know if the one that we have is Town of Sturbridge Rules and Regulations Governing Temporary, this is, I know it's not temporary, you know, moorings, floats, rafts, and ramps. Okay? It's in place.
But there's no value at all. Because this is permanent, it doesn't, there's no value to that, right?
I just have a question. I mean, the length of the dock is not really within our jurisdiction, right?
Right, correct.
We are just concerned with.
Well, it's under our jurisdiction because he's digging into our banking.
So he will be
digging, regardless of what.
So he will be digging in any case.
And you can, you know, waterways will tell you the same thing.
He will be digging in any case, right? Whether it's 26 or.
Right, absolutely.
Right, the size of the structure dictates the size of the counterweight too, right?
Insofar as this kind of 25 zone is concerned, if we allow a 26, there's not much difference for the 25 zone taking in.
This is just 32. Oh,
what about? I mean, just a few more tons.
I realize this is our decision, but Becky,
I don't know.
Is there, based on your education and your knowledge of this, is there a fundamental difference in your mind, like a significant fundamental difference in your mind in this case of 25 feet versus 32 feet?
think you'd have to do the math. I don't know what the math would be on the counterweight. Is that what you mean for the counterweight disturbance or disturbance over the lake itself? Over the lake itself, I think what you have to look at is what we've kind of talked about. Is it having a shading impact on land underwater? Is that a concern here or not? Which we don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think that it's not an area that's got submerged aquatic vegetation that would be important for wildlife habitat. They already have a dock there. I don't think that has a big impact. But as we start seeing these, if we start seeing larger ones that are wider, then yeah, and then cumulatively over time, you're gonna have a bigger impact too. So I think it's worthwhile, and there should be discussion, Board of Selectmen, SLAC, definitely, because I think people on the lake could have concerns because it is a public water body. But I think that you have to put your wetland blinders on, right, and look at, are we having a bank impact, which we're not here? Are we having a significant impact to land underwater? No. The real thing you have to look at is the disturbance within the 25 foot. All right, well, if you minimize the size of the dock, if you didn't make it as wide, then your counterweight's going to be smaller, and that could lessen your impacts there. But do you have a concern with that impact there or not, which I think you've kind of gone through and articulated already. But that's where I could see that, right, you know, minimizing that over the water would minimize your disturbance in the associated upland area with your bylaw and what your bylaw regulations are. And that, yes, cumulatively over time, if everybody puts these up, you know, I think it does have some concerns, one, for overall use as a public resource area, and two, impact the lake.
I mean, Ed's concern is the next one is even bigger, right?
Oh, it is. He'll even tell you it is.
I'm not even here with those. It was just.
But I think that, right, you have to move forward with what you have and what your laws
On
are.
the shading issue, here we sit here all the time and talk about, let's make sure we don't cut down the trees so we shade the water body. We went through that with the village over here, right? Don't cut down those big trees because it shades the water.
Yep.
We just mentioned these two here, right? Oh my goodness, they're going to be gone. And so, you know, we can't have a cake and eat it too.
Right.
So in some degrees, you're replacing some shade that, in this case, anyway, that the lake may be losing because of the loss of that big ash tree and whatever, so.
And the thing with
I
dogs.
agree with Ed, we're stuck in we're stuck kind of in a crappy spot here because we have ambiguity, which you could challenge. And then the other thing that I look at is there are other types of these on the lake.
Which we've done, five of them, and they're bigger, and this board has approved.
So you were within the 25 foot then? Obviously, because you built them the same way?
Right, they're all, yep.
Right up to the wall? So how did you get those approvals?
Approved?
Did they come through the
They
conservation?
all did. The last one I did, I was in
So
Florida.
that's
and
my
we did a
other
meeting.
problem, is saying you get one, but you don't. That's my
No,
biggest
we're
problem.
not saying nobody gets one.
And that's where the,
Trying to get them to be consistent.
well, I don't know that we have the ability to create consistency. because
My
we don't
confusion is just
have
if I
that
could.
regulation to follow.
You got a bylaw that says 25 feet out that is
permanent?
being policed.
Right, well, we got a bylaw that doesn't apply to what we're.
Yeah, no, because we walked out to the decks that were already over 25 feet.
Right, there's a lot of non-compliance
There's a ton of it.
seasonal structures. The only other thing I'd say about in consideration with the docks and having larger docks, you're gonna have more boats on those, more boat action in that area, which is one thing I read that, you know, is something that you can consider that could be a concern. If you got 8 boats docking somewhere, think about all the water it's turning up and the bottom. So the bigger they are, the more use associated with them is one thing that you could
What do they
consider
do over
too.
there
but-
now? They ditch them up, they bring them right to the shoreline.
They've got a 45-foot seasonal out there that they have 8 boats on already, so yeah.
Not everybody lives on the lake and has 8 friends with boats, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a common thing, you know, but I don't live on a lake,
So
so.
just a couple of points, that the added length on this one, or the next one, is not to provide for more boats, it's just for safe navigating the water to dock the boat, especially when the lake is a little bit lower than at full capacity, so they're not asking for the 32 foot to put additional boats in.
Right, you've
Further those
provided a
go out,
rationale here.
The less navigable the lake is.
This current one is 6 feet wide
Right.
by 25.
32.
You want to go 6
feet
by
out.
32.
We want to go 6 by, the current one is 10,
So
I
your
never saw
argument on
it.
that is that your X percentage of this, the mass, the one quantifiable deck space that you've mentioned here a few times.
It's, no, those are the only rules that are on paper for docks by the state. Yeah.
So,
None
I
will
don't think
exceed
concerns the length of the width.
25 feet.
Well,
And when there's someone that had 50 feet, how would you feel?
They actually do state that. You can go 25%
Floating.
across a bay, 25% of the way. So we're.
That'll never happen.
Never
It's
happen.
never gonna happen.
We're way under.
But, you know, that's,
Will be the select.
Could you imagine a counterweight on that? Quarter mile, quarter,
Yeah, the other thing you mentioned about improvement, we just pulled out some aluminum docks for a client, seasonal docks, and they were completely rusted. The poles with the wheels fell apart, so, you know, they had to get drug out on broken wheels, and
It's better technology. That part I think is addressed in Ed's comments, that, you know, I understand the concern about the 25 feet.
I think we have to be careful. I think this project is not one that we necessarily need to be careful with. Like, there's others that are proposing double docks that I have greater concerns about because of some of the things that have been brought up here. This is a pretty straightforward single dock, and we're really, in my opinion, quibbling about 7 feet, right? Which I get, we have to have standards, and we need to, you know, use reason to make sure that we're not creating precedent issues for ourselves. But we're talking about 7 feet in a fairly shallow area of the lake. I can get myself to, that makes sense, and I can defend it. Where there may be other areas of the lake where it's not as shallow, where my gut may tell me, no, I'm not comfortable with that extra 7 feet because it's not necessary here.
But the 25 feet is not applying to prominent docks, or what? I mean, I'm, if there's a word that says 20.
No, the 25 feet does not, the town bylaw does not apply to what we're talking about here.
So there's no town bylaw for this?
It's a void. It's in between two things, and they're rushing to cover the lake with ramps so they don't have to have boats. Hyperbole, I'm just, you know.
I don't know that that's fair. I mean, all we're basing these requests on are past ones that have been approved, which there was 5, and I keep going back to this, if you guys approve this, I'm only halfway through the licensing permit. I've already done the Chapter 91 up to now. It stops until you guys review this. Then it goes back up. And I've already discussed them. They already have the plans. They've already verbally approved them to me. So I know that they're going to get approved by them. I mean, like I said, they fall so far below what the state allows for a dock.
Well, my only comment then, just before we vote, I feel that, you know, what you asked for is not unreasonable, okay? I don't, and I, like nobody gives it, at 32 feet versus 25 feet is not the realm we're in. But I would feel that you have not improved this, and you are working in the 25 feet. So you need to take a look at that front area and get rid of the grass and put in wetland or plants that can go along the side of the shoreline and improve the shoreline, and give us a plan that actually, with this, improves the shorefront. Right now, the only thing you're saying is you're going to put it back the way it was. Our bylaw doesn't say they want it the way it was. We want an improvement if we're going to give an alternative permission. So if you can come up with plantings.
Well, the only thing I would, you know, go back to you on that is, and I'm not a part of that original plan that's been approved. They might have a plan in place for additional plants.
It mostly was on the side of the
Yeah,
property between the two houses.
Go back and talk to them. That would be what I would recommend.
Well, one more point, when we did the second walkthrough, it was kind of noted that there's no mitigation required, you know.
They did a walkthrough, two people did a walkthrough with you, and they didn't have any decision-making power, and they can't make a decision on site. So if you got a decision out of them on site, that's
I'm not saying I
wrong.
got a decision, I'm just.
All right, that's what I thought you said.
No, I'm just, to me, if we're not making a disturbance, if we're putting it, I know we're disturbing to do the construction, but we're putting it back, so it had to already been approved the way it was, we're putting it back to its original state. How would they access the dock if I put plants in front of
I'm
it?
asking you to improve it from its original state.
But, okay, but elsewhere on the property?
No, along, basically, behind the wall, Ed's suggestion is instead of it being a grass right up to the wall, remove a foot wide, whatever, and come back and say we put in blueberry bushes and whatever else would be.
Yeah, I'm sure the client would be, we can't move forward with an order of conditions that states that.
Not impede access to the dock, but I think he's suggesting improve, which is in the bylaws, so we certainly have a right to ask for that.
So
I would have came here tonight with that if I thought we were going to, yeah.
So over here.
Say you didn't get decisions on the site.
I didn't say we got a decision, I thought when we discussed it that.
Do we have a suggestion from the agent?
Yeah, let me pull up the plan that was approved for the project, so we make sure we know where they're doing their mitigation, which I believe is on the other side. But on this side, because we don't want to put it in front of the dock, right? We have a big patio over here. On this side over here, I believe is also lawn. There probably would be a good opportunity to, you know, create a naturalized area here. But let me find the approved plan, and that way maybe you can quickly come up with an idea of.
As far as that wasn't done on the house.
Blame
I didn't vote for it. You guys voted for it.
No, you didn't vote for it, so blame me. That's the easiest thing to do anyway. Blame Eric.
Let's move in paradise.
Becky, do we need to move along here? Should we have a continuation on this?
Well, let me pull up I got the plan right here. We'll just pull it up real quick. You guys can look at it, but right, I think we got to keep moving here.
Is that the?
This one's colored. All right, so let's look at this here. We've got, this is the whole restoration, so existing conditions,
And now he puts in.
proposed.
Oh my God, they come with.
Oh, yeah, right. No.
Yeah, all of the proposed plantings are over here, all right?
Right?
No, this is all upland here. Yeah, and then they had the area here. So they got the patio here, and then on this side is mostly lawn over here, I believe. There are some plantings right along the property line. I gotta zoom in.
So after giving us so much trouble, they come back for a dog?
Okay, so the ash is coming out here, and then this tree's coming out, all right? We have a maple existing right here, so maybe there's a way they can, what's the new house? They could add, you could add maybe a tree and some shrubs and kind of get rid of the lawn in this area if the commission felt inclined towards that, like where, from here over. You know, I'm sure this is lawn underneath here. Don't remember exactly.
I didn't know if it's possible to say that, you know, like in order of conditions that we're gonna give you 500 square feet.
Yes.
So we could vote on it.
Yep, within, let's see, I have some pictures here, so let's see.
That
There we
spot
go,
right there.
perfect. So here's the tree coming out, right? Oh, no, the tree coming out's over here. This is a maple.
I think that one is staying, but.
This one right here?
But that whole corner, I'm sure we could make a planting.
Yeah, and maybe where this is all lawn in front. Let's keep going here. It's a good thing I take pictures. This area maybe, where it's lawn, and it looks like maybe some moss in here.
Think of the first 25 feet. If you can take the lawn out of the first 25 feet and put plantings in that will, and not interfere with patio, people walking.
Yeah, to the left is a big boulder with a flagpole. I'm sure we could put plants in there and then put plants in that lower right-hand corner where those 3 trees are shown.
These-
And there's like, I don't know what
This is that little wall,
the
the
bed
wall.
line? Yeah.
Yeah,
We
there's
could
a-
fill that whole inside with wetland plants.
Well, it'd be upland plants, but
blueberries and-
beneficial.
right.
Yeah, it'd be up.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because this is that.
Plants beneficial.
Right behind you, they could give you a laundry list of things that we'd accept.
Oh, jeez. All right,
So, I mean, Becky, would that be acceptable? Would that be enough of a mitigation in your opinion?
In the area you just talked about? Well, I think you got to
We're
define.
talking, so this is already like mulched, right?
It didn't look like there was any understory.
No, there's no understory there, and this is grass.
Yeah.
Right? So, and there's nothing here necessarily, right?
We carry this line over.
Yeah.
And then use this area too, carry it over to here and do
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, we could. if
Shrubs,
the-
native shrubs
The
and-
counterweight says 10 by 10, we could go 3 times that in the planting, give you 300 square feet.
Well, that sounds good.
yeah, we'll take it. I mean, that's what we.
So 300 square feet
Square feet.
Yeah.
to be planted native shrubs
Approved plant list, right.
to be supplied and approved, and we need to make sure it's appropriate
you'll-
spacing.
Yeah.
There's certain,
You need to see the plan, obviously.
before work starts.
Yeah, I can get you the plan.
But we can approve it now
With that.
with that condition.
What the plan's going
And
to
we'll
see.
approve the
then
plan when we get it, but.
Reviewed.
300
Well,
square
we can
feet.
leave it to the agent's discretion to approve, right?
300 square
Yeah,
feet
I don't have
within
any problem with
25
that.
feet,
Yeah,
closest to lake as possible. Okay.
Right.
good compromise.
Yep. Any other comments? Because if not, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I would have a second.
Any discussion? Wait a minute, before I do, anybody in the audience like to speak on this? Seeing none? Eric, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Just what we've discussed,
To add
at
in,
300 square feet of.
yep. I also have some conditions in the detailed agenda. I'm not sure what you want to do about bond, if you want a bond, or not, but that's in there
Don't
too.
point at me.
Oh, no, I was kind of, I figured I'd buffer.
Yeah, I think it should be bonded. why not?
Yeah, because you're asking for a mitigation area, yep.
Yeah, we can't, we have to have a bond, Brandon would kill us.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Eric Gaspar in favor?
What's the bond, Eric?
Oh, no, we have
This is just
to,
a-
well, I have to do that in a subsequent motion. We're
Okay.
closing the
We
public hearing.
actually need to vote on closing the public hearing.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Second.
So Eric Gaspar in favor of closing the public hearing.
Is that your motion?
Already motioned.
Oh, yeah,
Second.
I'll second.
Yeah.
I seconded it and I'm voting in favor of closing it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
With regards to the project at 72 Paradise Lane, DEP file number 300-1180, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project with the conditions outlined in the detailed agenda. You didn't have any objections to that, and the additional plantings that was previously discussed.
Okay.
I'd second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Windglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor.
With regards to 72 Paradise Lane, under DEP file number 300-1180, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project under the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw with all of the conditions already discussed, and also require a surety deposit of $2,500.
Would that be a bond or cash? I prefer cash. Support cash.
Okay. Surety deposit, so, sure, cash, a surety deposit of $2,500.
Well, that would be, I would support that.
Yep, a surety deposit, so cash, yep.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion, I don't think that we need to make, I mean, just it's gonna be cash or check or whatever, it's not gonna.
Well, I
What the
don't
heck are
think
we
any-
doing here?
Is monetary or a bond?
Yeah,
Bonds are very
bonds carry a little bit
challenging.
different.
Yeah.
You know, they expire if the work isn't done, and
Okay.
we could be out of luck, and, you know.
Yeah, I don't think most people are gonna get I get your point, but.
Yeah.
I don't think
I don't
it
either,
should come
but-
with cash.
I don't know that much about it, you're probably right. I just felt like I was insulting somebody.
No, I'm not. No, not.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. That's it. I'm tired, I don't want, can we do 62 Mountain Road another time? I'm just kidding.
That's another door?
Yeah, okay, 62 Mountain Road, construction of a cantilever dock, DEP file number 1181. Okay, Sandy?
I don't know if you need me to repeat everything to this one, same, we're looking at about 32 feet. The navigational part is a little bit different, where this one has a big rock at the end of that. So that's why we're looking to get the 8-foot width. We've made a shift in the original proposed area in order to not affect the bank. So you can see the left-hand side of the dock, there's I have a picture of it if you wanted to take a look at the actual spot. I can give it to you. I know you've walked through it already.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I'd like to see it. You know, I was confused on the last one, so. Where we were.
So what we're talking about is this was we were originally going to put the dock to here.
Yeah.
And stay here. And it was suggested in order to preserve this shoreline, this stays, and we just take that amount of space out of this wall here and shift the dock over.
Yeah.
It's an observation.
What?
It was an observation.
Observation, yeah. Go ahead, you want to make, anything else you want to say?
So, like I said, it's the same water depth there, that's why we're back at the 32 foot. And we were looking for an 8-foot wide one here, primarily because at the end of the dock, there's a big boulder in the water. So by adding that width to the dock, the stone will now be underneath the dock, so it's not a navigation hazard.
Why don't you move the dock over?
Well, we are.
What I'm saying is move this, make a smaller dock, make it 6 foot.
Yeah, going out this way, I'm walking out the dock.
Yep.
The end of the dock, what side is that boulder?
It's, right now, it's kind of like right centered on it.
Okay. So the fact that you'd be, so it's actually a kind of good point there, Ed. So if you slid over right here, you'd probably almost.
Yeah, I mean, we're immediately getting into the problem that we are going to have. I would like to approve this for what we just finished approving. 6 feet, 32. And some of that lawn becomes.
Can you move it over? Can you move it over?
That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think Eric kind of came up with. Hey, maybe if you moved that over.
Well, yeah, because this stone was gonna have to come out, and Lord knows what's gonna happen to that bank once you pull out something that large. We have no idea what.
This is,
you know,
Eric, this is what we're gonna deal with all the way along.
No, I understand,
You're gonna,
but, you know,
the hillside.
that I can see.
The hillsides along Mount Dan.
So can you do it? I mean, can the stone be out? Yeah.
I know. It's the boulder location, you know, how that's going to impact the end of the dock to make it navigable.
There's a couple couple aspects to it. I think it's important that it's 6 feet.
Come on up, the mic, please.
Sorry. Our adoring public.
The 8 feet wide.
Probably state your name for the public here.
Daniel St. Ange, homeowner, 62 Mount.
Yeah.
The 8 feet wide is important for a couple. There is a boulder out, more than one actually out, 2 out. By shifting it, just brings another one in. Okay? So it's going to be a hazard for somebody who's jumping off the back of the boat. The other aspect, the way we have lift, but so that's why we're trying to adhere and articulate from protect. Shade. I think on that. What I would add is that, you know, we came before the commission about 10, 11 years ago, Ed, and I think what we
I wasn't on it then.
what we committed to do then is improving what started, kept our word.
Oh, you did a beautiful job. You have a beautiful place. You need less grass. You need less grass. As I look at it, and the other thing is when your neighbor, and it's not your mother, the other way, right? When they come in and they want a dock, do we go to 12 feet with them, and then the next guy, we go to 14, and then go to 16, all the way down the line, until, you know, see if we can get, where do we stop? Where do we stop? We may as well stop now rather than later. Why can't you figure out how to use a 6-foot dock?
I think for the reasons we've expressed, I think it's safe.
Yeah.
Considerations improving.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you want to do, guys? You're the ones that are going to vote on it.
Where could the plantings go?
Eric, we've got some existing beds.
Yep, yep.
And we would be at. So we can certainly add more.
You have plenty of land.
This fits nicely.
Do you have any suggestions
This fits nicely with
of location?
I don't think I took any pictures when I was out here, and I know when you walk down this side of the house, you get the stone steps, and it's all plantings there as you come around. Yeah, I mean, plantings right in the... Right, like this one here is kind of more like a hedge, right? Maybe there's
I'll
not...
sign a contract that I won't come back with the doubles.
Okay.
I will not come back looking to do this.
So this is shrubs, right? These are shrubs right here? What about, right, are they shrubs? Like a hedge? Okay.
That's the,
So maybe, is there an opportunity to add a couple trees or a tree there that's gonna add canopy over that area if the commission wanted that, whereas you won't impact kind of cutting back into that small yard area you have? That could be an option if it could fit there. I don't remember what those widths were or not.
only opening to the shore anywhere, even,
Well, I just mean like
vision.
right up against these, like right up against the back of these, like this is lawn, like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's something the commission would want, that could be a benefit, or right, if you wanted.
What about 7 feet? Could you do it with 7 feet? No, I'm saying, what about making the dock 7 feet wide instead of 8 feet?
Right, I understand.
I mean, without regard to the lake, you think that any size dock is okay?
No, that's,
So, you know,
feet wide docks do we
But,
have?
you know, the thing is, everybody has a, you know, shallow or a rock. We even heard about, you know, the boy that quadriplegic from diving in the water, and I went home and talked to my daughter, who was a friend of his, is a friend of his, and he was on a boat when he did it. It wasn't anything to do with somebody's damn short dock. So, I mean, it's a lake, not a pool.
So what are the other docks? How wide are they that are on the lake? So
No, they're less, because they were under they're not cantilevered docks.
And the last ones that we did that were approved are 10-foot wide. There's a 9, a 10, the double is a 7 and a 4, or then I think there's an 8 and a 4 as well.
the existing.
But ADA requires you at minimum to be 5 foot wide.
They already exist.
Yeah, they already exist on the lake. I think, in looking at this property, it's obviously well vegetated, and
Yeah.
it's not the same. I think it's a nice to have if the applicant is willing to put a tree on the right-hand side. I wasn't necessarily thinking, given the overall scope of this project and this property and how well vegetated it is as it stands, that was necessary, but it's good to keep consistent, right, of making sure that we have those improvements. I am less concerned about the 32 feet, as we've already discussed, and of the 8 foot width. I certainly have safety as a priority, as I always have on certain things, so I would be okay with the project as it stands, with some direction from the agent of what it would be the proper tree that would be planted on that right-hand side of the property.
I could just add, it's the only space that the lake is accessible on this property. It's completely closed off, like other boats can't come to the shore. Moving the other docks, floating them down and pulling them up and, you know, leaving them on the shore over the winter, you know, that doesn't seem to be beneficial to the shoreline or the lake.
Carson, you have anything? I pretty much agree with Eric. I think we should vote this thing. I don't even think they need a tree.
We're going to be conflicted regardless, and we're going to need to ask the select board to give us some direction here. But unless there's anything from the audience, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this?
I want the opportunity to comment.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's just like a great.
Sorry.
Second motion.
I will rescind my motion.
You know, this is a real standards issue that has to be addressed. We should write another letter to the Board of Selectmen and tell them to step up to the plate, because they're putting every homeowner, you know, potentially against each other, neighbors, and, you know, friends, and
I agree.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's and not to mention the visual,
learner.
you know, and the beautification of our town.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, we don't have that jurisdiction to say no because it's 8 feet wide, or 6 feet, or 50 feet at this point, right?
Well, when they're into the banking, we can say no because of the banking, but I don't feel we should. But you know, that's two different things.
All right, that was my comment.
All right. Well, now I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, second motion.
No discussion.
No discussion. I'd like to make one discussion, that we send a letter
Yeah.
to the selectmen, and that we get an answer from them prior to making any more lake decisions.
Why don't we ask to be on the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with you.
Yeah. All right.
Smart. Okay.
Fine.
They can't refuse that, really.
Yeah.
I suppose they can.
So, all right, so that's it. So, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Gooder in favor. You're all set.
No, I gotta make some motions here. We closed the public hearing.
Right? That was for the
okay.
letter.
All right, with regards to 62 Mount Dan Road, DP file number 300-1181, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project with the agent's conditions outlined in the detailed agenda and the plan for,
They didn't want to do anything else, any other plantings, I thought.
Well, and also a tree planting on the right-hand side, to be coordinated and, no?
Oh, I thought you guys said you didn't want to do that.
I really feel that site, well, just personally, you can't argue the point that the site's well taken care of and that it has flora and fauna and too much grass, but, you know, there's a weakness for grass.
All right, so I will remove I'll remove that additional planting from that as long as everybody's in agreement, so.
One more tree?
No, I'll remove that request, so, let me start my motion again. I'd like to make a motion to approve the project at 62 Mount Dan Road, DP file number 300-1181, with the conditions that the agent has outlined in the detailed agenda.
I'll second.
No discussion.
Any discussion?
I personally just think we should be consistent. If we're gonna require improvements, we should require improvements, whether it's improved and beautiful.
See, he did it when
he offered it.
I think this one tree would be good.
Whatever it is, we ought to get something, then we ought to be consistent.
Well,
with it.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
That's my comment.
One native deciduous tree planted within 25 feet of the lake. Is that a option you'd want to consider? Written?
Sure. So you
I
have
would
to
like
read
to amend my motion to include that request.
second.
Okay.
All right.
Seconded.
All right. So now can we approve it, vote to approve it? Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor, but I'm not really in favor of the tree, but.
With regards to the project at 62 Mount Dan Road, DP file number 300-1181, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project under the Sturbridge wetland bylaw with all the preceding conditions already outlined and also a $2,500 cash bond.
Second motion.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, folks.
Do
Okay.
you want me to quickly read all those and do the written continuation requests on here? Or do you want to say them? All the rest of the public hearings, we have written continuation requests for.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wait for Carson to come back.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's good.
So,
If they're written, we still have to vote on them, though, right? Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then we can get to Glenn here, patiently waiting. You know, the one thing about the docks, just while we're waiting for Carson, you know, there's two options that I can see from what I've researched for the Board of Selectmen. They either ask the state for the licensing abilities for permanent structures. That's one option. I don't know how involved that is or what you have to do exactly. The second is you could do some type of bylaw, like a local lake protection bylaw, and I would highly recommend that talk to Slack and get some feedback from the people who are helping kind of manage these lakes and know the concerns. Because there have been some people that live in the lake that have, you know, working on projects that I've talked to that have said, yeah, you know, there should be some restrictions on these things, you know.
Well,
So
there might be
there's
somebody
people
that
that,
wants to keep their camp,
Yeah.
lives a camp and hates to see all the change, but
Well, yeah, but the distance and size, these will become dangerous.
of course they are.
Yeah.
They become obnoxious to you, like you're nuclear.
I know.
yeah.
So,
He's already talking about the lift for his boat. That's a part of the dock.
Canopy.
This gets more and more. But that's the way that's, you know, neither here nor there. If I was on the lake, I'm sure I'd have, you know, I'd want nobody to have anything, no cutting, nothing.
Kayaks only.
Kayaks only. All right,
yeah, we can open it up. We're still a full board.
What?
Yeah.
Let's go for a bird.
Yeah. Okay, so for numbers,
7.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they're all continuations. So we are now on to.
Well, you gotta vote to give them the continuation, so we gotta do it individual. I'll say it real quick.
Do we need to do them individually, or can we do it?
No, we can do them all as a group.
Okay.
So
with regards to the projects at 324 the trail, 328 the trail, 263 New Boston Road, 241 and 245 Main Street, and 274 Big Alum Road, I'd like to make a motion to continue these until January 25th.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
All right, just for the record, for those, we had written continuation requests from the applicants, so, for the record. Glenn, you want to come up?
Let's post it.
Good.
All right, so next we have 2 things for 9 Holland Road. Some of you.
2 things.
This started prior to your time on the board, but so I'm going to go to number 17 first. So there's a release for an enforcement order, and then we also have a request for a certificate of compliance on the property. So just quickly, in 2019, we got involved and issued an enforcement order on the property. There was a lot of tree cutting, vegetation removal that occurred. Come to find out there was an issued permit on the property, which resulted from 2 former enforcement orders that they weren't in compliance with. They obtained Glenn Kravosky here to help them navigate through that. What it was mostly was a lot of drainage improvements that needed to be made on the property. Glenn also helped get the drainage improvements that DOT just came in with on the Quinnebog River, because their drainage was impacting the property, causing impacts to our resource areas. So Glenn worked diligently to take care of all the drainage improvements. We did throughout the course of different not public hearings, but meetings, go over that. He provided all the documentation showing that they met everything on that. And then they had planted 23 trees out there, and they needed to be monitored for 2 growing seasons, which he has completed. So they all have survived. So I think that based off of everything that we've been working on since 2019, the last thing we were waiting on here was showing that the trees have survived, that we're in a position to release the enforcement order. And then also we can issue the certificate of compliance for that past permit and close that one out too.
Right.
Was there a legal name change? I don't remember Banjo Boy.
Oh, that was the name. That
was Mr. Benavides.
Yes, D. Bonaventura. That's
D. Bonaventura.
the actual property owner. That's his LLC.
Oh,
so that's
okay.
the name on it.
Oh, okay.
He's in Big Pine Key. I saw that.
All right. All right. Well, with regards to the enforcement order at 9 Holland Road, I'd like to make a motion that we release 9 Holland Road and Banjo Bay LLC from their enforcement order.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor.
So I will draft a letter for that, and I'll copy you on that. And I think that I would just add in that letter too, just it's a reminder that any activity, anything that's a project activity, they need to come to us for review and approval first. So we'll just make sure we add that in there. And then for the certificate of compliance, that was for DEP file number 300-959. I kind of went through that. There were, one thing that Glenn had worked out, we also did an order of resource area delineation out here, because there was a question in this orders of conditions that said there was no more alteration that could occur on the property because of the riverfront on there. And Glenn went through and did that order of resource area delineation. Because it's a historic mill, portions of that property are not subject to the riverfront provisions of the Wetlands Protection Act. They're still in jurisdiction because they're in a buffer zone to a resource area, but the parts that were our historic mill that he showed, and we had a peer review, and it was all on a plan, that condition wouldn't apply. That needs to be taken out of here. So the other perpetual conditions that were noted were 12, 25, 32 through 36, 39, 40, 50, and 59. Most were no additional alteration without a permit, and maintenance activities for drainage structures.
Good, all right.
All right. With regards to 9 Holland Road, DEP file number 300-959, I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance with the perpetual conditions of 12, 25, 32 through 36, 39, 40, 50, and 59.
Second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Good.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
patience on this long project.
Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah.
And we thank DOT and your support, and Jim Robita did listen. Of course, we put the pressure on. If he didn't do the right thing, we also sent our problem with erosion. Maybe not to us, potentially with the drop inlets, which I insisted on. They did go with it finally. You saw some of the latest correspondences that I just sent from that time a year ago. And so they eventually, with VHB, did go with the drop inlets. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Glenn.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Have a good year to you. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, back up, we are going to go to number 12 now. This is a request for certificate of compliance, 233 Cedar Street, DEP file number 300-1139. This was for a new single-family house. It had a driveway that we had to work through. This property had there was multiple lots under one ownership. We had worked out, we had done a resource area delineation. We found out that there was an older permit from the, I don't want to say, I think it was like the early 90s, late 80s, I don't remember exactly, that property owner put the driveways in, they had approval, a superseding order of conditions from DEP to do this project. It was started, they put the fill in the wetland, didn't put the cross pipes in, didn't do the wetland restoration. So the property owner the original property owner has another order of conditions to do that restoration work. It was done. So this was for putting the asphalt driveway and drainage over the existing filled wetland and building a house in between two wetlands. We had conditions for adding signage on posts out there. They originally just put them on the trees. He went back out and put them on posts. He sent me some pictures. I need to verify that, which is good because it was on the plan. I think he got confused because in the meeting we said, we don't want them on trees, we want them on posts.
Right, yeah.
And he just had it in his mind, so I pointed, it's on the plan, you know. I said I would ask you guys, and he ended up doing it anyways. So that was the contractor built the project, property owners are in there, they hydro-seeded late in the season, some of it washed out, very mushy site, it's not stable yet. You know, they'll probably just have to seed it a little bit more in the spring, but I wouldn't recommend closing it because we don't want to pull those erosion controls right now because if we get more rain, it's going to wash out into the wetland. So I recommend we hold off.
I'd like to make a motion to take no action on this certificate of compliance at this point.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
All right, moving on to number 14, 5 Lakewood Trail, another request for certificate of compliance, 300-545. This is an older project. Permit was issued in 2003. They submitted a request for certificate of compliance in 2007. At that time, the commission asked for an as-built, and the site wasn't stabilized enough. They never came back, and now the property owner just came back. So we had him do the as-built, which he provided, and the site is stabilized. I have no concerns. Recommend issuing a complete certificate of compliance, and there was no perpetual conditions for that one.
With regards to the project at 5 Lakewood Drive, DEP file number 300-545, I'd like to make a motion to issue a complete certificate of compliance.
Second the motion.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Ed Gooder in favor. 33.
Oh, yep, we
Putnam.
had an emergency request that, for 33 Putnam Road that needs to be ratified. This is a very long driveway that goes out to a single-family house right on the East Brookfield line of Sturbridge off of 49. They contacted us in DPW, that big storm we had in December there on the 18th, 19th. There's a stream that flows through there. It washed out their driveway. These are fairly new property owners. They've been there about 6 months. So the GPW director went out there, came up with a plan. I went out there while they're starting to do the work. It was the only access they had to their house. So I included some emails in the detailed agenda, kind of showing it before, during, and after. I'm satisfied with the work they did. I think they did a good job.
Town did that?
No,
Oh,
no,
right.
but they called and Heather went out there and looked at it and gave them guidance, which was useful. The previous property owners had like 2 15-inch pipes in there, which just were not big enough to handle that flow, so everything just washed out. They have 3 24-inch ones that are right within the stream bed. There's an upgrading wetland, so it's not gonna, I was kind of concerned, wondering if it would drain the wetland, but that's no concern because it's the stream flowing out. I have no concerns. I did tell them I'd like to come back out, take a look at it, just to make sure everything kind of compacted nicely, and they don't need to do anything else to kind of maybe stabilize some of that fill in the driveway.
A motion to ratify the emergency certificate?
Before I do that, just a question, this is not going to require an NOI after the fact, this is...
You don't have to, you can if you'd like to. Typically, when we've had these washout ones, you haven't required that
Okay.
afterwards.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't required. So I'd like to make a motion to ratify the emergency certification at 33 Putnam Road.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Ed Gooder in favor.
All right, number 18 on the agenda, I keep adding this one on here. We're almost ready to close that one out. One of the things he said he was gonna do is record a plan. He had given the plan to his lawyer. They had to get, I believe, like a Mylar and get that all done, and the lawyer had to record it. I did follow up last week, just asking if that plan got recorded. Didn't hear back. I think we should just postpone this and put it on the next agenda and give him some time to get that plan recorded.
It's fine.
Works for me.
Okay. All right, we got minutes for approval. Believe Erin sent out the November 16th minutes. We don't have the other ones yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we even have the 7th?
No.
So, no, okay. Yeah. So, the 16th looked good. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from November 16th, 2023.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Ed Gooder in favor.
All right, and then just going down, I did change and add a couple things on here for the future, like conservation land decisions if we have something. And then I put, if you saw, I put all those enforcement orders under enforcement order section, just so that way we didn't have it necessarily under old business and someone had a concern that it was listed under old business based off some past comments on that. So I just wanted to change those, not a big deal. The only other thing I have on here, besides if you guys have any old business or new business, is just that yearly we receive, National Grid has to send us notification of their operation plan. So I did include that in there. I did go on and found the map for Sturbridge. It's just one easement area that's near Hobbs Brook Plaza that they're doing. It's a small section. They said they have to send it to us by law, and if there was an area that we had a concern, if it's a sensitive area, they're mostly looking for wells from Board of Health. We usually don't have any comments or provide anything to them, but it's correspondence. I wanted to make sure you got it.
Okay. Good.
Did lie, sorry. Tom Chamberlain reached out to me. He wanted to let me know and let you guys know that Frost is going to be meeting on Tuesday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Public House. Frost is the Friends of the Sturbridge Trails. They are going to be recognizing Dave Barnacle. I'm just going to read what Tom said, who was the driving force in establishing the Friends of the Sturbridge Trails with a new dedication to him of a Founders Award and a presentation to the family. It'll be presented going forward on the occasion to those of our community that through their special and unique commitment to the trails and their enjoyment at Sturbridge, he wanted me to advise you if you want to attend.
What date is it?
It's a Tuesday, the 23rd.
23rd.
And
At
where is
7
it?
o'clock?
Public House at 7 p.m. Yep. And he only wanted to know if anyone wanted to get up and say anything. He just wanted to know about that in advance, but he doesn't need to be notified who's going.
Okay.
Oh, and just before I forget, Karsten, last time we were out on site visits for his work schedule, was wondering if it would work for people to move it to Monday for the site visits. The only thing is the next Monday, that would be the week of the site visits. That's Martin Luther King Day, which is a holiday, which might not work for people, but moving.
Professor, you know he's off.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if, like, right now we don't.
Anything on Martin.
Right now, we don't have any new projects. Our deadline is this coming Tuesday. My only concern would be like if an engineer wanted to be there and it's their day off. I would happily go out on that day. I'm available if needed, but.
Actually, it's easy for me because the banks are closed, so those days work well for me.
All right.
Holidays.
Mondays are good?
Yeah, Mondays are fine.
Yeah. How about you, Eric?
Just let me look at one thing.
It's the first day of the week, yeah.
I know, I'm just trying Yeah, I should be able to make it work.
Okay,
Yeah,
so why don't I say,
don't have a
like,
problem with
I'll just see what we have coming in, if we get any new applications, hopefully we don't, and if we need to have a site visit, and/or if whoever the applicant and engineer, if they're okay with us coming on Monday, we can absolutely do it on that Monday. I'm fine to do
It must
it.
be off, though, right?
Yeah.
You guys are closed that day. The town is, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have.
Okay.
You shouldn't have.
Don't do next Monday.
No.
Okay.
If you're close, don't worry about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
You
I'm
don't
in town.
live down the street here.
So what's the story on, they changed the night? You're gonna have to be open?
Yeah,
On Mondays.
to Mondays.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
I didn't know about it, so, you know, I
I don't think
don't,
anybody did.
yeah, I think some people might have been discussed with. I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have anything I have scheduled on Monday, so it's not, you know, something of a significant concern for
Yeah.
myself, but, right, moving forward, you know, staff and whatnot, so.
Okay.
Long Monday's a hard day.
Can we have a time constraint on presentations?
You can.
Hired him.
I know, but I mean, he went on and on and on, and I was like, seriously, you can just give me
We're
the.
still on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's worthy of a discussion, you know, because it was a great explanation, but you do delay other public hearings as a result of that, and that could be.
There was some stuff in here, some good stuff in there.
No, I mean, it was a good presentation, but
I
still.
know the stuff.
Yeah.
Very thorough. The town clerk wanted me to let you guys know, all the boards know, that as of January 8th, nomination papers will be available for elected offices that need to run. So it should be posted on the website. I think there's Board of Selectmen, there's school committees, I think there's a ZBA member. There's a whole list of them, so.
I got a notification that a Goodwin was running for select board on Facebook, so.
Yeah, well, he wasn't gonna run, and then his wife got pregnant, so he decided. I said that one.
We're still on, I'm making no comment.
No comment, I shouldn't have said that.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, Aaron. Good night, Aaron.
Past my bedtime.
Night.
I won't be able to make actually the next meeting.
25th?
Then I may be remote, if you remember, but I should be able to make it.
Just work issues, we have a candidate.
I'll probably be remote in the second meeting in February.
Okay. Well, I think it's just one on the 15th. February 15th, our only February meeting.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should.
We should try and get the meeting with the selectmen.
Yep.
What nights do they meet?
Mondays, right?
Mondays?
They're nice, yeah, I think,
They'll be able to slide us in the next couple of meetings.
yeah.
Okay.
They really have to have regulations.
Yeah, well.
Do you wanna
They just-
close this?
Who wants to close the meeting? Come on, boys.
Karsten,
Karsten, close it up.
I move to close the meeting.
do I have a second?
Second it.
All those in
Or
favor?
approve.
All in favor?
Ed Winglass in favor.
Good night, Aaron.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Night. Take care.
Happy New Year.
Becky, that's yours. Okay.
Oh, I didn't want to say
Haven't
on
made any
there,
progress.
but I was very surprised when I found out that they